Tonight from Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, more than 40,000 Phillies fans may see a piece of baseball history they'd rather not. The distinction, as they say, is at best dubious. The first franchise to lose 10,000 games. The Phillies might plunge into that abyss tonight. A bitter pill for the team, for the town, when losing has been the legacy for so long. But it's a new day, filled with high hopes of patterns being changed. Good fortune around the next turn. These Phillies aren't about the losing. They're the Phillies of the future. Young, strong, productive, and proud. Ready to turn things around. Rise to the top in the East. And look down the road to 10,000 wins. Beginning by finishing off a sweep of the Cardinals tonight. It's ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. It's a warm, perfect night for a ball game here in the city of brotherly love. We're at Citizens Bank Park. A huge crowd is gathering. The world champion Cardinals on the verge of being swept by the Philadelphia Phillies. On Friday night, the slugging Phillies, Chase Utley helped lead the way. They banged out 13 runs, including that home run, on 23 hits and one in a laugher. Then yesterday afternoon, they got the power show going right away. Jimmy Rollins led off the game with a home run. And later in the first inning, Ryan Howard also went deep. And the Phillies again won a lopsided game, 10-4. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Peter Gammons. Welcome to Sunday Night Baseball. Now, with one loss, the Phillies will have lost 10,000 games, unprecedented in baseball history. But these Phillies don't care about that. These Phillies are the highest scoring team in the league. They've scored 23 runs, 37 hits in 2 games against the Cardinals, led by the dynamic leadoff man, Jimmy Rollins. He's exciting. And the powerful young slugging duo of Chase Utley, the second baseman, and Ryan Howard, the first baseman.
Well, John, how good was Ryan Howard after the All-Star break last year? Well, he led the National League in all the Triple Crown categories. He had 30 home runs, which led. He had 78 RBIs and a .355 batting average. The problem is, I think he's going to have to duplicate those numbers if the Phillies are going to win. Their pitching staff has not pitched up to their capabilities, and I think they're going to have to continue to outscore the other team. And they do have a lot of offense, as you mentioned, with Utley and Rollins.
So we'll have a good long look at all those guys here tonight. They are on a roll right now. And the Cardinals, hard times. They're 9 games out at the moment and in third place in the Central Division. Now, the great Albert Pujols is having a strong year, but not a fabulous year. And Peter Gammons, we've expected the fabulous as the norm for Albert Pujols. Still in all, he is the heart and soul of a struggling Cardinals lineup.
Well, John, he is. And he is third in the National League in slugging since the end of April, but he cannot do it alone. Now, this is the first stop of a 3-city, 10-game road trip that may be for the Cardinals critical. Oh, yes, they got David Eckstein back this week, and Jim Edmonds will be back in Florida, but they now know they probably won't have Chris Carpenter for the rest of the season. And if they get home 8 days from now, more than 10 games behind Milwaukee and the Cubs, it could be time for next year.
And Peter will get a long look at Albert tonight. After a long dry spell without any home runs at all for more than 3 weeks, he's homered in each of the first 2 games of this series. So Albert will be coming up against the tough right-hander, the hard-throwing Adam Eaton. Eaton on the hill looking for his 9th win tonight for the Phillies. First pitch when we come back.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And in part by Excedrin Back and Body. Its dual ingredient formula turns a double play on pain. Stay tuned for this week's Excedrin Back and Body Double Play Getaway Trivia Challenge. And Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side.
Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. There's Tony La Russa, the manager of the Cardinals, who won everything last year. but are 7 games below 500 so far this year. And the 2 teams ahead of them in the National League Central Division at the start of the day, the Brewers as well as the Cubs, each have already won their games. So the Cardinals need a win to get back to 8.5 out. The batting order presented by Taco Bell. David Eckstein back from the disabled list, shortstop. Skip Schumacher in center field. Albert Pujols hitting third, 18 homers, hitting .310. Chris Duncan in left field, hitting cleanup. Scott Rowland, the former Philly, and having a very poor season at third base. Juan Encarnacion in right field. Adam Kennedy, the former Angel, second base, really struggling. Yadier Molina back from the disabled list, hitting 8th. And Adam Wainwright, a postseason hero as a closer last year, is the starting pitcher, batting 9th, all up against Adam Eaton. Adam Eaton will be facing that man, David Eckstein, in just a moment. As Eaton, 29-year-old right-hander from Seattle, Washington. And this guy throws hard, Joe. And they used to forecast stardom for him in his future when he was a young pitcher with the Padres. But for one reason or another, it hasn't really materialized.
Well, Johnny has a good fastball and a slurve, and he can change speeds on both pitches, which is something you don't see very often anymore, the slow curve. But I think that's interesting. But he has to stay ahead of the hitters, and he has to go after them. Every once in a while, he'll start to nibble when he gets behind, and that's when he gets himself into deeper trouble.
So here is Eaton, and David Eckstein leads off, and there's ball 1, high and tight. David Eckstein, for the amount of time that he's actually played, has played well, hitting .316, but he's only been in 53 games. And some lower back problems. That fastball is too low. Now it is 2-0. And Eaton will have bouts of control difficulties. He's averaged about 4 walks per 9 innings. His ERA is 5.69. You see the movement on that fastball, and it's in there for a strike. 2-1. Even with all the difficulties he's had, Joe, he's 8-5. He's got a pretty good one-loss record. A roller, Jimmy Rollins. And there is one away. The last time Adam Eaton faced the Cardinals was June 23rd. He gave up 6 earned runs in 5 1/3 innings pitched. Juan Encarnacion hit a home run against him in St. Louis, a long one. And then Chris Duncan also hit a home run, and he hit this one to the opposite field. So they roughed him up. 1 out, and here is Skip Schumacher now. And ball 1. Cardinals placed Scott Spezio on the disabled list before the game. He's got an infection in the index finger of his left hand. It just won't go away. And they brought up Brendan Ryan back from the minor leagues.
And let's take a look at the defense behind Eaton. And Victorino, 10 assists, leads in that, tied for the National League lead. Francoeur of the Braves he threw a guy out at the plate today, John.
So does he have 11 now, or is that his 10th?
He had. I'm not sure if that was his 10th or 9th. I mean 9th or 10th. I know he's tied with him anyway. Well, I know if it's 11. How's that? We didn't get our stats yet to see if it was 11.
How many does Francoeur have?
Well, he threw a guy out today. I know that.
So he got a lot.
He's got one more than he had yesterday for sure.
All right. Very similar to what Victorino's.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that counts today with his 10th.
2-2 the count to Skip Schumacher. There's Victorino. And what an exciting player he is. And Schumacher went up for a shoulder-high fastball there, fouling it away. 2-2.
See, I told you Francoeur had 11.
That was his 11th.
Yeah, today. I saw him on television. I knew he threw someone out today, and I wasn't sure. So that wasn't quite up to date, but he has 11 assists now, Francoeur.
So Victorino's 1 behind him.
1 behind.
Needs 1 to tie him. 2-2. And a pop-up. There's Rollins, shallow center. Called off by Rowan. Phillies had that one surrounded. 2 down. And here comes Albert Pujols. You know, Albert, the average year for him, his first 6 seasons, 42 homers, 126 batted in, a .330 lifetime hitter. So the fabulous is just what we expect from Albert. And he's having a very solid year. 18 homers. He's got an excellent shot for more than 30 homers this year. He's hitting over 300. but not the kind of numbers we have come to expect. And he's got a base hit on the first pitch.
Well, the problem is he's raised the bar so high that we expect him to do it all the time. And the problem I see this year with Albert Pujols is the people surrounding him. In the past, he's had so many good players around him. The fastball in, and he rips it into left field for a base hit. But he's had so many good players around him. He had Jim Edmonds, who was having good years, Scott Rowland. All those guys are having down years. Edmonds on the disabled list right now. Eckstein has been in and out of the lineup. So he has not had the same type of chances that he's had in the past.
And a called strike to Chris Duncan.
And people pitch around him now because, you know, they're not threatened by anyone behind him, especially if there's a left-handed pitcher out there. Although Chris Duncan has done a good job of working his way into the starting lineup.
Duncan's got enormous power, and that's in there for a strike. Quickly 0-2 to Duncan. Duncan, 289 average, 16 home runs, and he has, the norm is for him to sit out against left-handed pitching, although they put him in there against Cole Hamels yesterday. Duncan's been doing his best hitting of the year here lately.
And La Russa said that, I asked him, is he a regular now? And he says, well, there'll be certain left-handers that he will sit him out against, but there are a lot of left-handers that he'll play against. So he says he's not a complete regular yet, but he's going to play most of the time.
Tony La Russa in his 12th year as the manager of the Cardinals. Check swing foul. 0-2 the count remains. Duncan is hitting .301 against right-handers, and all but one of his home runs have come against right-handed pitchers. He's averaged 1 homer every 12 at bats against the right-handers. Scott Rowland on deck. And the curveball is too low.
That was an excellent pitch. He was able to lay off of it, but that was a good 2-strike pitch there. I mean, to get the ball down, you see the catcher drop his hand, and the K-zone says it caught the plate at the front of the plate before it broke out of the strike zone.
1-2, and now 2-2. 2 down. Pujols, the runner at first for the Cardinals. Cardinals have had a hard time scoring runs most of the season, and that's part of what you're talking about, Joe. That Jim Edmonds is still on the disabled list, although he says he feels great now. He's hoping to get off the list soon. There's Rowand, and that's the inning. But in this series, it's giving up runs that has been killing them. The Phillies with 23 runs in 2 games, and here they come. Adam Wainwright will try and stop this Philly juggernaut when he takes the hill. Sunday Night Baseball from Philadelphia, and there is Jimmy Rollins. Cardinals nothing. Phillies coming up. Rollins, who homered to lead off the game yesterday, will be leading it off here in a moment. He's the leadoff man at short. Our lineups presented by Taco Bell. Shane Victorino, a very fast right fielder. Chase Utley, a slugging second baseman. Look at those numbers. Mammoth. Ryan Howard, after a real slow start this year, putting up the big numbers again at first base. Aaron Rowan, he was an all-star center field. Pat Burrell just starting to come out of an early season malaise. Greg Dobbs at third base, he's done well. Rod Barajas, the veteran catcher, and Adam Eaton, the pitcher, batting ninth, all up against Adam Wainwright, tall, hard-throwing right-hander. And the first pitch to Rollins. Fastball at the knees for a called strike. Jimmy Rollins, as you see Wainwright's numbers for the year, and he's struggled. He's had some starts where he's been great and other starts where he's been knocked around. And the ball inside. All of that after he was the emergency replacement at the end of the season with Isringhausen on the disabled list. And they couldn't have even gotten to the World Series without him. He was sensational. A ball and a strike to Rollins. Right center field. And Schumacher. And there's one away.
Well, John, he's still learning to be a starter because he was a starter in the minor leagues, and then he became the closer, as you mentioned, last year. And he's starting to mature into a quality starter. And by that, I mean he's learning what it takes to pitch. Before he would come in for 1 inning, he could just let it all go, overpower you with the fastball and the curve. Now he's added a changeup and a sinker to go along with his fastball and his curveball. And he's been getting a lot of ground balls, and that's what you need as a starter.
Here's Shane Victorino, a base hit. So he'll stop at first base, but he may not stop there for long. Victorino, hitting .279 at game time, has 28 steals and has only been thrown out twice this year. Jimmy Rollins was up there with 18 homers, .294 average. Also a guy who can steal bases. And I was sorry not to see Rollins in the All-Star game. I think he deserved to be there.
Well, John, I at first thought the biggest omission was Gary Sheffield, but looking at everything now, I think the biggest omission was J-Roll. I mean, Jimmy Rollins. I mean, he's had a fabulous year. 57 RBIs from the leadoff spot in the National League now, where they have the pitcher hitting ninth.
Torino back to the bag, plus 18 home runs now, 10 triples, 23 doubles. He scored almost a run per game. Excellent shortstop, great arm,
and a leader.
Chase Utley, he was in the All-Star game, and I don't think there's a second baseman around who can out-hit Chase Utley. He got 73 runs batted in, .332 batting average, 35 doubles, and although he earned a reputation early in his career as being a liability defensively, Charlie Manuel, his manager, said that Utley's become an excellent second baseman and attributed it to real hard work, that he studies the hitters, studies the charts, and he's an encyclopedia of what hitters are likely to do with different pitches. Utley and Rollins, the double play combination. And is there a better double play combination than these two when you factor in the offense and everything that they bring to the team? There's no double play combination even close, I think, offensively to these two.
The interesting part is, you know, with Utley, you mentioned he's improved. Once you get a reputation as not being a good defensive player, it stays with you a long time.
Well, we're trying to dispel that. Albert Pujols, there's one. Next time back to Albert, double play. And Ryan Howard left on deck. On to the second inning. Scott Rowland, the former Philly, coming up. No score. Here's Scott Rowland to lead off against Adam Eaton, and Rowland rips one into the gap in left center field. One hop up against the wall. Rowland plays the carom over to second, Rowland with the slide, and he just beats the throw.
Excellent hustle there by Scott Rowland. He was going for the double as soon as he saw the ball off the bat. Good play there by Aaron Rowan, and he made a good throw to second base. Let's take a look at the nationwide K-zone. Fastball, belt high inside, and he jumps all over it. Nice compact swing there. And watch the ball bounces right back to Rowan, who has a good arm, gets rid of it quickly, right on the money, but nice play there, slide there by Rowland.
Rowland with his 14th double of the year, and here is Juan Encarnacion. And he wanted to go to third, nobody was there, and still in time to get Encarnacion. The third baseman, Dobbs, started in after that ball, and it was fortunate that Eaton picked up that he was not in the bag in time before uncorking a throw.
Well, he made the right play, and so did the third baseman, because Encarnacion, you didn't expect him to bunt. So he's bunting for a base hit. This is not a sacrifice. And when you look up, there's no chance for him to charge the ball and then throw to first base. The third baseman has to come in. He can't let that ball get past the pitcher. You have to get one out when they square around. And again, that wasn't a sacrifice. If he squares around, everybody can charge. But that was a situation where he was bunting for a base hit.
Now, it was and it wasn't a sacrifice.
Well, they're going to give him a sacrifice, but he was bunting for a base hit.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But he will get credit for a sacrifice bunt. No time at bat. And here is Adam Kennedy. Fly ball, left center. Can anybody catch up to it? No. So Scott Rowland will come in to score. Rowand throws back to second, but too late, and Adam Kennedy has a double into the gap in left center. Nobody can get there. It is 1-0.
That's one of those situations where you have to question the defensive setup, because that was a fly ball. It didn't hit on the warning track, and no one could get close to it. So the way they were setting up defensively,
they left that big gap in left center field. See, when he hits it in the air, he thinks it's out. And you can see where it doesn't even get close to the warning track.
So there have been 3 pitches thrown in this inning by Eaton. And he's allowed a double, a bunt, and another double. So Adam Kennedy gets the RBI. And here is Yadier Molina, MVP of the League Championship Series last year. But he didn't hit well in the regular season. He's hitting pretty well this year, but then he got hurt. He spent some time in the disabled list. Back now, one of the catching Molina brothers, his older brother. In fact, both brothers are older than him. The oldest of the 3, Benji, the everyday catcher for the Giants in San Francisco, and then Jose Molina, the second of the 3, is a catcher with the Angels in Anaheim. 2-1 the count to Yadier Molina. Going back to Scott Rowland, Joe, I wanted to mention, because he wasn't up there very long to talk about him, but you had said that Albert Pujols has been sort of out there by himself, exposed in this lineup. He used to have a lot more help in the lineup. As Molina fouls that one off, 2-2 the count. But as an example, Scott Rowland used to be one of the guys who would hit right behind him. And you could count on Scott Rowland 25, 30 homers, 110, 115 RBIs. It was a top hitter. This year, he came in hitting only 260 with only 4 home runs, and the double was only his 14th. He had 48 doubles just last year, and last year was kind of a down year for him at that. Here's the throw by Dobbs in time to get Molina, and Kennedy moves to third. Second out. So what about Scott Rowland, who he had some shoulder difficulties that plagued him last year, and is there another injury? Is that shoulder continuing to plague him, Peter?
Well, John, it bothered him a lot at the end of the season last year. He played so much during the year, and it's carried over a little bit. I asked him yesterday, well, are you all right? He said, well, my family's great, and Sandfog, which is Scott Spezio's band, is great, and that's about it. So, obviously, there is still some weakness in his shoulder, and he just can't drive the ball the way he has in the past.
Wow, talking about driving the ball, Adam Wainwright, the pitcher, rips one over the middle, base hit to center. He gets a 2-out RBI hit, his 4th RBI of the year.
John, he's 9 for 28 now. He was 8 for 27 coming in. So he's 9 for 30 now.
But he's hitting an even 300.
Right.
And showed himself to be a force right there. So Adam Wainwright makes it a 2-0 game. And now Eckstein, little chop, Eaton, and he throws him out. Cardinals were really aggressive in that inning, and they get 2 runs on the board to take the lead. Ryan Howard coming up for the Phillies when we come back.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, brought to you by Chevy, an American Revolution, and Death at a Funeral, the new comedy from the director of In-N-Out and Bowfinger, in theaters Friday, August 17th.
Sunday Night Baseball, a big crowd here at the beautiful Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. The Cardinals with a 2-0 lead. The Cardinals who need a win there. They're in a precarious spot in that Central Division. They started today 8.5 out in the Central Division. And both the Brewers, the first place team, and the Cubs, the second place team, have won. So at the moment they're 9 games out, and they've got a tough schedule upcoming. So every game is big for the Cardinals as they try and resuscitate themselves in this division race. Ryan Howard, a ball inside from Adam Wainwright. Ryan Howard, he got off to a very slow start this year. Then he was hurting, finally went on the disabled list, but he had been smoking since he came back. In under the hands, little cutter there from Adam Wainwright, 1-1. Howard got 22 homers, 68 batted in. He missed 13 games with a strained quad muscle. 16 homers, 45 batted in since then. That's a called strike, and it's 1-2. Wainwright, remember that big curveball he threw to Carlos Beltran to end the League Championship Series?
The one that ended this championship series was a hard curveball. That was a slow curve.
It's 2-2. He's got a lot of weapons in his repertoire.
He does.
2-2 the count to the slugging Ryan Howard. Ooh, man, look at the movement on that one. A fastball that came back and over the plate, got him looking.
Well, he sets him up perfectly for this fastball. He had him looking for the breaking ball. He threw him a slow curve, and he followed that with a slider. Fastball in. I mean, he was making sure he stayed in on. And then he throws a curveball away, a slider back inside to Howard, and then a fastball that moves back almost over the middle of the plate. I think he knows that he got tricked there because that ball moved a lot back to almost to the middle of the plate.
Now Aaron Rowand had that Greg Maddux thing going there on that fastball. Rowand, first ball swinging, Eckstein throws him out, 2 down. By the way, a little bit later in the telecast, we're going to welcome Harry Kalas, who is a winner of the Ford C. Frick Award in years past in baseball's Hall of Fame.
There he
Great
is.
voice of the Phillies. He's going to come over and join us, Joe. Harry Kalas. How's the sweet pea, Joe Morgan? Wasn't a Philly very long, but I always liked it. Joe used to hit those line drives into right center field for extra bases.
Well, I thought Harry was already here, but I guess you're just good at what you do.
The frozen tundra of Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's a pretty good gig, right? The one he's got going with NFL Films there?
Yeah.
What a voice. Talk about a voice of the game.
Everyone recognizes Harry Kalas' voice.
Yeah. You think he talks like that all the time, Joe?
Yes, he does.
Does he go to his son, Harry Jr., as Pat Burrell bounces a foul? 0-2 the count to Pat Burrell. Does he say to Harry Jr., you get in that kitchen, get that garbage pail, and get it out of here?
Well, his son is working for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Todd.
Yeah, Todd's doing a pre and post game.
He's got another son. I believe he's in high school. He's an opera singer.
Man, it's that curveball you were talking about.
What do you think?
Should
Should that have been called a strike?
Well, let's take a look at the nationwide K's on it. It'll tell us. No, that was, well, yes.
Ooh.
But you will very rarely get the high curveball called a strike.
Looks too high for the hitter and for the umpires. It's coming in. Scott Rowland throws out Pat Burrell. 2-0 Cardinals. If the Phillies lose it, that'll be their 10,000th loss, unprecedented in sports history in this country. We're going to talk about that a little bit. These long-suffering Phillies fans with Joe Morgan and John Kruk. We'll be back in 30 seconds. ESPY's right after the game. There's Big Ryan here in Philadelphia, part of the new wave of young Phillies talent. They got some good ones here. Cardinals leading 2-0 as we head to the third inning, but 10,000 losses, that's a lot of losses, although the Phillies have been around a long time, 125 seasons of baseball here in the city of brotherly love. But what about all those losses? And there have been times where the Phillies were a loser year in and year out years ago. Now, you played here, Joe, and so did John Kruk from Baseball Tonight. John's up in the Baseball Tonight studios. John, welcome to Sunday Night Baseball. So they say it's tough to play here. The fans, with all the losing over all the years, are very demanding. Did you find that to be true, Joe and John? John, welcome.
Hey, John. Hi, Joe. How you doing? Yeah, they are very demanding. But you know what they want? They want you to play hard. They want you to play the game the right way. And you know what? If you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. You put the effort out there, though, they'll appreciate you. And believe me, I played on some bad teams, and we took a beating quite often. So I know how they feel.
Well, John, I agree with you 100% about if you play hard, they appreciate it. I mean, I was in a slump when I played here in '83. In fact, it ended up being 0 for 35, John.
Now, that's a slump.
Yeah, but when I was about 0 for 15, you know, they were booing me when I would make an out, but I hit a ground ball and I hustled, almost beat it out at first base. I was safe, and after that, they cheered me. I mean, I really hustled, dove into first base, trying to beat it out. And from that point on, you know, they cheered me for the rest of the 18 offers at bats.
Schumacher, the hitter, leading it off with Albert Pujols on deck. Schumacher, Pujols, and Duncan coming up for the Cardinals, who lead 2-0 here in the third. So, John, what about the The 10,000 losses, is this significant? And if you're a Phillies fan, is it something that you're aware of or have been aware of, that they've had so many losing seasons?
Well, you know, I think they know it's creeping up on them.
And Schumacher's going to get extra bases. Is it just going to be 2? Yeah, he's going to hold on as the ball is hurried back to the infield. A double for Schumacher. And Albert is next. Go ahead, John.
I know they knew it was creeping up on them, but you have to remember, I mean, the Phillies weren't going to go through this entire season and lose less than 45 games. So they knew inevitably it was going to happen sometime this year. But, you know, again, I think the fans aren't really concerned with it. I think they want it to be over with so people quit talking about it and they can move on with the season because, you know, yeah, Phillies fans are long-suffering. They only have 1 World Championship, been to the World Series a few times, but, you know, they want to see you know, what's happening today. They're not the type of people that look back on things. What can you do today to help us win? That's what they care about.
Albert Pujols, and the slider in there for a strike from Adam Eaton. John Kruk from Baseball Tonight, and we'll be looking for you. Thanks for coming on with us. And John, how many years did you play here, John?
Almost 6. It was fun.
Almost? What happened? What happened to that 6th year?
I got traded halfway through the year, so it was a lot of fun.
Albert Pujols to Chase Utley. He gets Schumacher over to third base. I guess a productive out. Thanks, John Kruk. And Joe, one thing is for sure, they're passionate here.
Yeah,
they really care about the Phillies. The first signs of life. I mean, they're right here, and they're selling out this ballpark on a regular basis right now.
Yeah, well, I was part of the Wheeze kids, you know, Pete Rose, Tony Perez, Steve Carlton, Mike Schmidt, Gary Matthews. We were all part of the older group that played here and got to the World Series against the Orioles. So
if you were under 45,
they
you
liked
play
us.
On that team.
Yeah, they really enjoyed our team.
Here's Chris Duncan, runner at third, and he chases that high fastball, loses the bat. Hello. Right toward Milt Thompson in the Phillies dugout.
Well, you see he's got one finger buried. That's what it's called when you have one finger underneath the knob. And you have to be very strong and have real strong hands to be able to hold the bat, especially when you swing and miss like that.
So Duncan uses little rosin. 0-1 the count. 83 Phillies went to the World Series against Baltimore. John Denny won the Cy Young Award for the Phillies that year. Mike Schmidt, 40 homers, 109 batted in. Now, Joe, that's kind of misleading, that 230 average.
Yes, it is.
Because you led the way down the stretch in September.
Thank you, John. I hit 4 something in September and got most of those RBIs and those home runs in September. So you're right.
First 5 months, though.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
September, though.
Yeah, I was born in September, so you see that was my kind of month.
And you were sort of reborn that September.
Yeah.
Look at that movement from the inside and back over the plate. Strike 2 called to Duncan. Chance to not get a run here. Doesn't even need a base hit. A ground ball to short as second would get him an RBI. A fly ball hit well would get Schumacher home. 2-0 the score already. Joe hit 421 that September, by the way, and had 19 RBIs. It seemed like you were stealing bases too.
Well, I was, like you say, you got to get on base to steal a base. I couldn't get on base earlier in that time. But the fun thing for me is, you know how I came out of 0 for 35? I hit a home run off of Nolan Ryan. We won the game 1-0. Ooh. So that turned my whole, September around.
That was early September?
That was it. Okay. Turned it around.
1-2 the count. And 2-2 now to Chris Duncan.
And Nolan Ryan still he can't believe I did that. But it was his fault. He threw me a slow curveball.
And you got to that World Series. Baltimore won that World Series 4-1.
Yeah, did they cheat? I think they cheated because we were worried about guys like Ripken, Murray, and all the great hitters, and the catcher Dempsey beat us up.
Oh, so you forgot about Dempsey. He won the MVP award in 83. 3-2 the count to Chris Duncan. Scott Rowland on deck. There is Schumacher. They're trying to get him home. Big spot here with Eaton already down by 2 runs. The Cardinals with a chance to get a run home here without even getting another hit. Here's Rowland. Full count. And he loses him. Ball 4. And now Rowland will come up. And let's listen to the introduction of Rolen, because the Phillies, the fans here always have a special place in their hearts for Scott Rolen.
Well, the reason is, remember, he wanted to get traded away from here, and they granted him his wish, but the fans have never forgotten.
Rolen hit a double and started a 2-run second inning rally.
I don't think that was a bad pitch there by Eaton. Now the double play is in order if you can get the ground ball.
And you get the right-handed hitter.
Yeah.
And the guy's not having a good year. Duncan's
swinging the bat very well right now.
1 strike to count to Scott Rolen. This is the part where, for years, he's the guy you wanted up there in a spot like this. Well, if they pitched around Albert. But so far, not so much this year. In the dirt, and now the double play is eliminated. Yadier, or rather, Barajas didn't even know where that ball was. Finally, Eaton retrieved it. So Duncan's into second base.
So much for planning on the double play ground ball. He kept the ball down. It's a breaking ball in the dirt. He said breaks. Barajas had his glove over. You know, I'm not so sure he wasn't crossed up there, John, because he had his glove turned like it was going to be a fastball, and then all of a sudden he had to turn it around the other way because it was a breaking ball.
Well, he was definitely crossed up after the ball bounced away from him, because he didn't have a clue where it was. And he looking at his feet and behind him and to the right of him.
Yeah, good job by Eaton to be heads up and charge off the mound.
So now a ground ball to the middle infield could knock in a run again. A moment ago, before the wild pitch, a ground ball could have ended the inning with a double play.
Well, one thing the Phillies have been able to do lately is score a run, so they're not going to, you see, they're not playing the infield in. They'll give up the run.
Off the fists, hit very slowly. That'll get the run home, and Howard to Eaton, and look out. Eaton got a little tangled up over there and almost got it from Scott Rolen. I mean, his feet, ankles, and Achilles tendons were in harm's way there.
Well, it's a good job by Rolen not to run him over. And he finally hits the bag with his left foot because he wasn't on the bag. And watch, he misses the bag with his right foot. Right there, he steps over it. Now he backs his left foot into it, and that's why he had the collision with Rollins. With Rolen, he had to back into Rolen.
Looked like Rolen still got him on the back of the right calf. So Schumacher came in to score, making it 3-0. Duncan took third, and Encarnacion, who had a sacrifice bunt his first time, takes a big curveball for a called strike. 3-0. The Cardinals looking very efficient there, Joe. Although I don't think that's exactly what Rolen was trying to do.
No, but Albert Pujols went the other way. We didn't give him credit for going the other way and moving the runner to third with less than 2 outs.
Jimmy Rollins throws out Encarnacion. They get a run against Adam Eaton. Adam Wainwright will head back to the hill with a 3-0 lead now. The last third of the order coming up. Back at Citizens Bank Park, Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, Peter Gammons, your Sunday night telecasters. Our 18th season of Sunday Night Baseball. Tonight, we're leading into the ESPYs, coming up at about 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Gary Sheffield, the slugging outfielder of the Detroit Tigers, was in the news this week. An excerpt from an interview he did for HBO's Real Sports that will be on a bit later in the week. He said, when I was there, meaning the Yankees, the couple of blacks that were there had an issue with Joe Torre. They weren't treated like everybody else. I got called out in a couple of meetings that I thought was unfair. I'd see a lot of white players get called in the office and treated like a man. That's the difference. So Joe Torre was called on the carpet by Gary Sheffield. Andrea Kramer did the interview with Gary Sheffield, and according to an interview she did with Newsday this week, Sheffield had quite a bit more to say about the topic. And one thing that she did ask him as a follow-up to that comment was whether he believed Joe Torre was a racist. And Sheffield said, no, I think it's the way they do things around there. Since I was there, I just thought that they run their ship differently. The batter is Greg Dobbs against Adam Wainwright. He takes a strike. Dobbs, Barajas, and Eaton coming up here. And there's a ball up and in. Now, Kenny Lofton, now in Texas, played for Joe Torre in New York for a while. He said, all I can say is Sheffield knows what he's talking about. That's all I'm going to say. So Kenny Lofton basically seemingly backing up Gary Sheffield's comments there, according to the Associated Press. Darryl Strawberry played for the Yankees. Darryl Strawberry on Joe Torre. Joe Torre was great to me. No one was greater to play for than Joe Torre and Davey Johnson. To this day, I have a lot of respect for Joe. That was a quote from the New York Post.
So if you read those three quotes, there's really not a consensus there. You know, Darryl Strawberry said it was great to him. Lofton and Sheffield says that there was a problem.
That curveball bounced to Pujols. Wainwright over the cover, and Dobbs is out number 1.
And the real key, as far as I'm concerned, is that unless you're there, John, you really do not know what goes on. We can all sit here and speculate. You, me, we have a good relationship with Joe Torre. We weren't in the locker room when whatever Gary says happened, when he was called out and other guys were not. I would really like someone in the locker room that was there during that time period to make a statement, because these are statements coming from Kenny Lofton, who wasn't there, who's no longer there, and it's also coming from Darryl Strawberry, who wasn't there when Sheffield and Lofton were there. So, you know, I don't think there is a consensus here that says whether Joe treated somebody unfairly or not. But if Gary Sheffield believes that, that's all that matters in his mind.
Rod Barajas, a base hit to left field. Second hit for the Phillies against Wainwright.
I mean, you can hear a lot from a lot of different people. You can listen to Lofton, you can listen to Strawberry, you can listen to a lot of different players. But if Gary Sheffield felt that he was being singled out, then that's between Joe and Gary, which I'm a little amazed that it's coming out now, I guess is the point I would make. But it seems that, you know, Gary wanted to say it now, and he said it.
What about the fact that other players who are still there and were there, why aren't they coming out and making comments, either saying it was not true or it is true? I mean, there seems to be a lot of silence coming out of that Yankee clubhouse in regards to this story.
And there's you know, in the past, John, years ago, if you didn't comment, it was okay, because, you know, things would kind of go away. In today's media, things do not go away. Every place the Yankees are going to go for the next few weeks, someone's going to ask the players about that. So it's going to continue to be a story. See, in the past, when someone would say something or write a story, in a couple of days it may go away. But with the internet and everything that goes on now, just a no comment doesn't really let it go away anymore. And I'm like you, I wish someone would speak this in the clubhouse at this point, or was there with Gary Sheffield and Kenny Lofton. And if they're accurate, they're accurate. I mean, that's the way they feel. That doesn't mean that everyone feels that way, but if that's the way they feel, that's the way they feel.
2-0 the count to Adam Eaton, by the way. The runner at first and 1 out here. Eaton has been showing bunt in his first 2 pitches.
But if you know, again, doesn't seem to be a consensus here, you know, of the players that we've talked to anyway.
The Phillies have the relief pitcher, Tom Flash Gordon, who played for Joe Torre. And Peter Gammons, you talked to Flash Gordon about this before the game.
I talked to him earlier this afternoon, Joe, and John, and he said, you know what, I really wasn't aware of it. He said, you know, Joe Torre treated me very well. I wasn't aware of that sort of problem. And, you know, it's just something that was never an issue with me. Now, you know, as Joe knows, it's a little bit different for a relief pitcher than an everyday player, but Flash was pretty adamant that this was not a problem as far as he was concerned.
So, again, there doesn't seem to be a consensus, Peter, one way or the other, and that's what bothers me, that I would like someone that's
presently there, or whatever that was there when Gary was there, or when everyone was there to decide if it was true or not.
Adam Eaton draws a walk against Wainwright. So just a mistake there by Wainwright. He had a guy up there, a pitcher who came up there looking like he was trying to make it out. And he ends up walking him. And now the top of the order comes up, and the Phillies, the highest scoring team in the majors, have a chance to turn this into something. 2 men on and 1 man out. But what you're saying, Joe, to me is almost, if a Derek Jeter were to come out and say something, weigh in on this, or some of the other Yankees who are there and star players, but the mere fact that they're not saying anything almost damns Joe Torre just by their silence or their refusal to defend it.
Well, there was only 1 year that Gary Sheffield played for Joe Torre when Tom Gordon wasn't there, so he was there.
And that's a strike to Jimmy Rollins. I think the disturbing thing is simply that in many quarters it sounds like Joe Torre is being accused of being a racist, or at least being prejudiced against black players, and that's pretty inflammatory. That's a pretty strong accusation to make against anybody.
Well, the only thing he did say, he didn't think that Joe was a racist. He did say that, so that part of it's not there. But again, it's a very difficult situation. But I'm going to say it one more time. You have to have been there. You have to be a part of the clubhouse, part of that organization, to know what was going on. And that doesn't mean just the players. I'm talking coaches, etc., that were in that locker room.
Big curveball from Adam Wainwright, and Jimmy Rollins was not up there very long.
One thing I think needs to be considered here is that Sheffield, Womack, Lofton were all brought to the Yankees by the Tampa contingent. And let's face it, there were 2 organizations in the Yankees for a long time, the New York office and the Tampa office. And I think that may have played in this a little bit.
Oh, you mean because George Steinbrenner brought Gary there?
Yes, and the other 2 were brought in by the Tampa contingent that worked for Steinbrenner.
Shane Victorino, the hitter. Joe Torre, for his part, the quote I read from Joe when he was asked about Sheffield's comments is, "I know who I am, so I don't concern myself with it."
Well, he said he feels comfort not talking about it. But again, I'm going to say that again. I don't believe you can just let things go in this day and age. There has to be a response some way or another, in my opinion, from somebody at the Joe Torre or somebody in the organization, because it's not going to go away just because you don't talk about it. In today's situation. In the past, if you just let it go again, it would die. But I don't think things die as quickly today. I mean, we're still here talking about it ourselves today.
Shane Victorino, the hitter, 2 men on, 2 men out, and that is too low, and it's 3-0. Chase Utley, one of the leading RBI men in the National League, is on deck. 3-0 Cardinals. The Phillies with 2 men on, a threat, and Adam Wainwright, after getting rid of Jimmy Rollins on 3 pitches, has fallen behind Victorino, 3-0. The 2 base runners, Barajas, the catcher at second, Eaton, the runner at first. Got the call, the low strike.
Let's take a look at the nationwide K zone and see if Victorino was moving too quickly. Yes. Remember, it's where the ball crosses the front of the plate, not where the catcher catches it. And Jim Wolf takes exception to the fact that the Phillies are barking at him.
Yeah, Charlie Manuel's giving it to him from the dugout, and Jim Wolf walks over and tells him to knock it off. Well, Victorino thought he had a walk. Jim Wolf said, no, that caught the knees just as it reached the plate. 3-1 the count. Right to second. Kennedy, everybody's safe. It looked like the inning was over, and Kennedy booted it.
And I'll tell you something. Kennedy booted it, but that ball was hit so hard that he still should have had a play. Victorino really got out of the box and hustled down the line. I have to give him credit for that. I know Kennedy drops it, but watch how quickly he gets down the line. I mean, that is all-out hustle. And that ball was hit so sharp. This ball is hit hard right at Kennedy, bobbles it, and by the time he picks it up, he doesn't even have a chance to make a throw to first base. Look at that all-out hustle. Good job by Victorino.
So a big error, and the bases are loaded rather than the inning being over. And here is Chase Utley. The big curveball in there for a called strike. Utley, 73 runs batted in for the season. At the beginning of the day, tied for the league lead in RBIs. So everything is set up beautifully for him right here. Utley. 0-1 the count. And Wainwright himself gets the put out.
And a good job by Wainwright to pitch out of that jam.
So the Phillies leave him loaded, still being shut out. And Harry Callis, the voice of the Phillies, will join us when we come back for the fourth.
I'm Steve Berthune with an update from our Baseball Tonight studios. Rangers-Angels tied in the 11th. Mark Teixeira, fresh off the DL and going yard. His 13th gives the Rangers a 5-4 lead. Rangers trying to avoid getting swept in Anaheim for the second time this season.
All right, and back here in Philadelphia, the Cardinals with a 3-0 lead over the Phillies as we start the fourth inning. Adam Kennedy, who got bailed out there by Adam Wainwright. Kennedy made an error that could have been a critical error, but Wainwright went ahead and got Chase Utley, and no harm. So still 3-0 is Kennedy, followed by Yadier Molina, and then the pitcher Wainwright against the big right-hander Adam Eaton. And Joe, one of our favorite voices of the game, Harry Callis, is stopped in the booth to join us. And Harry, welcome to Sunday Night Baseball.
Thank you, John. Joe, great to be with you tonight.
My pleasure, Harry, as usual. John, Harry, and I started together.
That's right.
What do you mean?
We've been rookies together.
Started together in 1965 with the Houston Astros as Kennedy hits it to Utley, 1 down.
So I thought that you just materialized from voice heaven into the booth at Veterans Stadium, but you actually were somewhere else before that.
Oh, yes, with the Houston Astros in the first year of the Astrodome, 1965. Judge Hoffheinz called that the 8th wonder of the world. Sweet Pea was a rookie that year. Joe Morgan was a rookie that year, and he was runner-up for Rookie of the Year. Now, the question for you, John Miller, as Yadier Molina steps in. The question for you, John, is who won the Rookie of the Year that year that Joe Morgan was second in 1965?
No, I know that answer because I asked Joe about it. I says, I can't believe you didn't get Rookie of the Year. And he said, no, they gave it to Willie Mays.
Well, he wishes it was Willie Howard.
Right, I could accept that, right? A lot better.
All right, who was it?
Would you believe Jim Lefevre?
With the Dodgers.
Oh, what a ripoff.
Lefevre of the Dodgers. Well, one of the things that might have hurt Joe in winning the Rookie of the Year is the fact the ball club lost 97 games that year. There's a base hit by Yadier Molina to right field, and he was a one-out base runner.
Fans wanted Victorino to throw him out at first base, I think.
Shane's got a great arm and a very accurate arm out there in right field.
Harry, you've been here a long time, so, you know, what do you make of this 10,000th loss? What do you make of that?
The fact that the Phillies have been around a long time. I mean, they've been around since 1883. And I think there are only 2 other clubs that have been around longer in Major League Baseball than have the Phillies. And most of those losses were absorbed in the 20th century and the first half of the 20th century, really in the 1900s. So, Joe, I've only been around for 2,900 of them.
That's you broadcast 2,900 Phillies losses?
A little over 2,900.
Now, another Phillies voice, Byram Som.
Yes.
Did you ever work with him?
Oh, yeah. I worked with By when I first came here. In the early 70s, I first came to Philadelphia in the First year of Veterans Stadium in '71, so I worked a couple of years with Bai. Yes.
Now, it was once said about Bai Sam, who at one time did both the Phillies and the Philadelphia Athletics.
Right.
And the Athletics were not very good at that time either. And they said that he, without question, has broadcast more losing games than any broadcaster in history.
Well, I guess if you count the games he did for the A's, I guess that might be so. Interestingly, they're not having Wainwright bunt here because this guy can swing the bat. He was hitting .276 coming into this game. He singled in a run to help his own cause. In the second in lifetime, he's better than a .300 hitter.
Well, I hope you weren't looking at the same stat that I had, where it was 8 for 27 instead of 8 for 30. 29, I mean.
I was looking at 8 for 29 is what I had it
Yeah,
for.
see,
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Joe's got his own stats.
No, they put this in my room today, John.
As my late great partner Richie Ashburn used to say, never let the facts interfere with a good story. Swinging and miss, he got it with a breaking ball. So Wainwright will take a seat. That is the first strikeout for Adam Eaton, and it'll bring on the top of the order David Eckstein.
Now, when we were showing the shot here in the booth, Harry, I couldn't help but notice that you brought a lot of reading material over here with you. So, I mean, you go prepared. Even when you're just coming over to visit us for a little while, you are prepared.
I have all my books here. All my books here. Doesn't mean I'm going to use everything.
All right, so you're not trying to sell a book or anything?
No,
Because I'll mention it on the air if you like.
No, I'm not trying to sell a book.
Are you going to write a book?
I haven't done a book. You know, people have been talking to me about doing one, but I haven't been doing it. I haven't had the time between baseball and football and what have you, and the NFL films work, so I really haven't had time to sit down and do a book.
Hey, our buddy Bill Giles wrote a
just
book.
came
Bill
out with a
Giles was
book.
part of our three-man combo from the Astros in those days.
Right.
In fact, Bill Giles came here to the Phillies first, and then you followed, right?
He brought me here. Actually, Bill brought me here in 1971. Bill's book is a very good book, too. It's
Yeah, it is. I read.
Yeah.
How's it gone for you since you came here?
It's gone great. Eckstein sharply to short, but Jimmy Rollins gloves and throws him out. A low throw dug out by Howard. No runs, a hit, and one left.
That's the Hall of Fame broadcaster of the Phillies, Harry Callis, who's here with us. And Harry's going to stay around. We'll be back. Ryan Howard coming up. That's a look at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Huge crowd. The Cardinals leading the Phillies 3-0. The Phillies trying to sweep this series. They have some coming from behind to do as Ryan Howard gets ready to bat. And between innings, they're giving out between innings today the Golden Fanatic Awards. And my partner Joe Morgan was actually in a category where all of the nominees were Joe Morgan. And he won. And we'll show you that a little bit later. But right now, Harry Callis, the Hall of Fame voice of the Phillies, is here with us, and one of the great sluggers in the game at the plate here, Harry.
Ryan Howard leads off. It's the curveball for a called strike. Wainwright has a good curveball. Howard struck out his first time up. Having won to Ryan Howard. 22 homers, 68 RBIs. And he takes another one that's low. 1-1 strike.
Harry, have you seen anyone like Ryan Howard in all the years you've been here in Philadelphia come up as a young player?
You know, I really haven't. I mean, to get Rookie of the Year and then follow it up with the MVP award has been something really special. And people ask me who I might think about as a hitter that reminds me a little bit of Ryan, and I'd have to say Wilbur Darnell Stargell.
Same here.
You know, Willie Stargell was something. One thing Ryan has not done this year, as he did so well last year, was hit the ball the other way. He has not been hitting the ball the other way. 28 of his 58 home runs last year went to left or left center field, and he hasn't been doing that as much. Of course, I think pitchers are also treating him differently. They're not throwing him away anymore. They're coming in on him.
Well, tall guys, they usually try to stay in tight, and that's exactly what I've seen them do with him from the beginning of the year, stay in tight on him, and a lot of off-speed stuff inside, making him pull the ball.
Here's Aaron Rowan. He grounded out his first time up. The Golden Fanatic Award for Joe Morgan was presented between innings by the Philly Fanatic. Of course, Joe was very much a part of the '83 ball club that went to the World Series against the Baltimore Orioles.
That's still one of my favorite years. I know I didn't play as well as I would like, but I enjoyed Philadelphia a lot.
Now, Harry, was that like the greatest September that you've ever seen? Of the Joe September that year? This is the award between innings. Here's the fanatic.
Joe had a tremendous September, and then had the 2 home runs in the World Series. One that they showed on Fanavision, the other he hit off Jim Palmer.
You know, I forgot I had 2 home runs in that World Series because it was
2
so,
home runs
you
in
know.
that World Series. And the guy that's working TV with us now in Philadelphia was the most valuable player of the league championship series, Gary Matthews, on that team.
The Sarge.
Yeah.
He's on the radio with you?
He's on TV. Works television games with us. 3 balls and a strike here to Aaron Rowan.
Here's that home run you're talking about in the World Series.
It took that long, too, John.
We're going to... I was a little over-anxious there, Harry. I wanted to see it right now.
Base hit right center field, Aaron Rowan. So he is a 1-out base runner for Pat Burrell.
I want you to call this home run just as if we were back in the '83 series, Harry.
All righty.
Scott McGregor
Joe
on the
Morgan
hill.
stands in. McGregor's pitch, the sweet pea, a long drive to deep right field. Out of here. Home run, Joe Morgan.
Yeah.
And here's Pat Burrell, who would like to do the same here. The Phillies trail 3-0 here in the bottom of the 4th. And he lines at the left field. It's going to, Duncan really plays a deep left field, and balls like that are going to drop in front of him. Chris Duncan is a very good hitter, son of Dave Duncan, the pitching coach for the Cardinals. But I mean, for everybody, he plays a very, very deep left field. The ball like that's going to drop in.
Now, the out of here, that your home run call, has that always been your home run call?
It was about the mid-70s, standing around the batting cage at Veterans Stadium, and Greg Luzinski hit one way off into the upper deck. And Larry Bowe was standing around the batting cage, and Bowe says, "Wow, that's way out of here." I thought, hey, it's kind of a neat ring, and so that's when I started using it. I've used it ever since.
Well, he didn't say it like you did.
There's saying out of here, and then there's you saying out of here.
Right, exactly. I use a lot of things I learned that year. Gary Matthews used to say, you know, a little slide piece, you know, for the slider.
Yeah.
And so I used that. Enos Cabell gave me the big fly. So it helps to be around smart people sometimes.
1 strike here to Greg Dobbs. He grounded out his first time up. Popped him up. In the infield fly rule in effect, and Rowland will put it away. So it's up to Ron Barajas here with 2 outs.
What was for you, the greatest Phillies season for excitement and achievement and all of that?
The most fun season was probably '93. That cast of characters. The last time the Phillies got into the World Series with Lenny Dykstra, the Dude, and John Kruk, and Larry Anderson, our current broadcast partner, and Mitchie Pooh, the Wild Thing, Mitch Williams. I mean, they were a great bunch to be around. And they had a really good team leader in Darren Dalton, their catcher. I mean, he made sure they had fun, but he also made sure they were ready to play. And so they were a fun bunch. And then I'll never forget the 1980. Of course, 1980 was our one and only World Championship. And the 1980 League Championship Series, most gut-wrenching series I've ever seen. It was 5 games in. 4 of them against Houston went extra innings. They, in the last day, with the series tied at 2-2. They had to beat the Astros and Nolan Ryan to get to the World Series, and they did just that.
Not only beat him, but they had to beat him after he had a 2-run lead, I think, or a 3-run lead in the 7th inning. I was on that Astros team, unfortunately, but it was a great series.
Take that, Sweet Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a gut-wrenching. Right? Once they won that series against Houston, there was no doubt in my mind that they were going to want to win the World Series.
And when they won the World Series, that was their first World Series win in how many years?
Their first ever.
So in like
Their
it
one
could
and
have been
only World Series.
1,000 years. Their first in
Yeah, their first ever.
I guess if you have 9,999 losses, you couldn't have won too many World Series.
Most of the losing occurred before you got here.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes. As I say, I've only called about 2,900 some losses.
But you've also had a lot of Phillies wins because
Yes.
70s they had a lot of good teams here.
Yeah, the late 70s, they had really good teams. They accumulated, they had 16 straight losing seasons in the early 1900s and the 1930s and 40s. 16 consecutive losing seasons, so all those losses were then. In those years, I was a Washington Senators fan, John.
So you've got to grow up with it then.
3-2 here to Barajas.
Washington, they used to say, was first in war, first in peace, last in the American League.
That's right.
So, Harry, you were here for 29% of the losses.
But look at that. In 1918 through 1948, 31 years, they won only 37% of their games and had only one winning season in those 31 years.
So that's where most of those are accumulated at. Full count here to Barajas. Nasty curveball left it. He thought it was a ball, but looked pretty decent. Too close to take, certainly.
Who would have thought that you'd come on with us, Harry, and the only home run, the only out of here, was a home run that Joe Morgan hit 24 years ago. Thank goodness we had it. Many thanks for coming on.
Enjoyed being with you guys. Take good care.
Thank you.
Voice of the Phillies, Harry Callis. Now he's got to go back to the radio. For Sunday Night Baseball, he's out of here. Thanks, Harry. Adam Eaton throws a called strike to Skip Schumacher, leading it off for the Cardinals here in the 5th inning. Schumacher hit a double in the 3rd, starting something for the Cardinals as they added their 3rd run of the game. They had a 2-run 2nd and then another in the 3rd. So they lead 3-0. Albert Pujols will follow Schumacher here in the 5th. Again, many thanks to Harry Callis. Little bloop. That is in there, a fair ball. Schumacher's going to try for 2. Burrow's throw, a little bit offline, and he makes it. So he turns a bloop single into a double. And that's a gamble when you got Albert Pujols coming up next.
And you do that automatically right out of the batter's box. So, John, you realize that the ball's going to fall safely in there if it stays fair. So you have to really bust it out of the batter's box. And good hustle here. As you see, Burrow comes in, he picks it up barehanded, and he fires to second. I mean, he really turned it on once he rounded first base.
That's the 4th double of the game for the Cardinals, and 3 of those doubles have started innings. The leadoff man in an inning has doubled 3 times now in 5 innings. Albert Pujols, he hit a 2-out single in the 1st, and then in the 3rd he helped set up a run. After Schumacher's leadoff double, Albert grounded out to 2nd, moving him over to 3rd.
I don't think he'll try to do that this time, John. He's going to try to drive him in.
Well, he's like Reggie Jackson used to say about himself. He's the chauffeur.
Yeah.
His job is to say to that guy at 2nd, get in, have a seat, I'm going to drive you home.
But the problem is they've lost a couple of games right after the break that changed their attitude, so he's trying to make sure that they can win this ball game. They were ahead 2-0. That was kind of an insurance run, so he's not going to try to go that way this time.
This one is way back there and out of here. Albert Pujols with a 2-run shot to the deepest part of the yard, and it is 5-0 St. Louis, and he has homered in each game of this series 3 straight days.
And he'd gone like 22 games or something without a home run before, just before the All-Star break. But again, you can feel Albert Pujols. He was going the other way the last time to get an insurance run. This time he's going to try to drive him in himself, and he does so. Looks like an off-speed pitch. Albert got out in the front of it a little bit, but he extends really well through the ball.
And he's so strong that he hits it up just straight away center field.
Albert went through the longest home run drought of his career. There's 22 games without one. That ball is ripped to deep right center by Duncan. It's gone! On consecutive pitches, Pujols and Duncan go out of the yard, and it is 6-0 St. Louis. Chris Duncan with his 17th home run of the year.
Albert Pujols hit a changeup. Duncan hits a fastball. Let's take a look on the nationwide K-zone. Supposed to be a fastball in. He gets it pretty much in the middle of the plate and down. And most left-handed hitters can really hammer this ball, and that one was hammered. That was a line drive by Chris Duncan.
That's no cheapie either. Just to the right of that 398 marker, and the fence is double height out there. That was a long one. The Phillies bullpen is going to get busy now as Scott Rowland takes ball one.
I was standing around the cage and I was talking to Chris before the ball game, and I said, "This is a good hitter's ballpark, isn't it?" And he said, "Yes, except for out there." And that's exactly where he pointed. He said it's not easy to hit him out that way. He said, but it's a good hitter's ballpark if you pull the ball straight away right field or down the line.
Pujols over the center field wall. Duncan over the deep right center field wall, and that one is laced into right to left field. And another hard hit ball. 4 straight hits for the Cardinals to start off the 5th inning. Ironically, the first of those hits was just a little bloop.
And speaking of great announcers, the gunner, Bob Prince in Pittsburgh, used to say, "Give me a bloop and a blast." And that's exactly what they had here, a bloop to lead off the inning, and then Pujols gave him a blast.
Well, they got the bloop and 2 blasts.
Yeah.
They got a bonus blast from Duncan after Albert's. Rich Doobie, the pitching coach, talking to the bullpen. Clay Condrey, you saw, the right-hander, is warming up out there for the Phillies. And Adam Eaton is not fooling anybody right now. After the bloop double, Pujols over the center field wall, Duncan over the right center field wall, and Rowland with a line drive single to left. Nobody out, 3 runs in, and here is Juan Encarnacion. And now Charlie Manuel is going to come out of the dugout. So they were just stalling for time until they got word that Condrey was ready.
Well, he's going to do a double switch because the pitcher's scheduled to lead off for the Phillies in the 5th.
And it looks like the catcher, Barajas, is going to lead the game. So one of his other catchers is going to come in, apparently. There goes Barajas down the runway. And Clay Condrey will make the long trek in from the center field bullpen. 6-0. The Cardinals have opened it up here in the 5th inning. We'll be right back. Adam Eaton, an early shower, trailing 6-0. He went 4+ innings. Gave up a spectacular home run to Albert Pujols. And look where this one hits. I mean, this one was not only over the 401 marker, the deepest part of the ballpark, but it hit that back wall, the hitter's backdrop, Joe, and high up that wall.
Right in there.
So now Clay Condrey, just back from the minor leagues, with a new catcher, Chris Coast. The new catcher, Coast, will hit in the 9th spot and be due to lead off in the last half of the inning. And Condrey back for the 4th time for the minor leagues. He's been up and down between the Phillies and Ottawa, their AAA affiliate, several times. And it goes to 2-0. They estimated the distance on the home run by Albert Pujols at 441 feet. You were talking about Chris Duncan, Joe, and talking about how he likes to hit here. And all I asked him is, you see Chris Coast, the new catcher. I said, "Do you like hitting here?" And he looked at me and got a big smile on his face. Says, "Are you kidding?" I think everybody likes to hit here.
And he also included Cincinnati. He said he loves to hit in Cincinnati. He likes that ballpark as well.
No wonder it's the great American park in Cincinnati. It's the great American hitters park, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The Phillies have hit 63 homers here, and they've hit 48 on the road. but they've allowed 77 here and allowed only 45 on the road.
Well, their pitching staff has not pitched up to its capabilities. And that's one thing that concerns Philly fans is, can you continue to outscore the other teams?
The team earned run average is 14th in the 16-team league. That's the relief pitchers. And the overall staff ERA is even higher than that, 4.88. But they are leading the league in runs, but they've also
it's offset by that.
Given up more runs than anybody. Of course, that's not to say they're quite like the 1930 Philadelphia Phillies. I always had a fascination for that team, Joe, reading about them in the baseball encyclopedia. You see the numbers there. First in runs, last in giving up runs.
I'm going to get you a hobby if you read the encyclopedia.
But I do that in the winter when there are no games. Okay. One away at Encarnacion in the first out of the inning. Let's go to Steve Berthiaume for a Sports Center 30 at 30.
Thank you, John. NBA Players Association considering an appeal of the 7-game suspensions given to Ron Artest and Steven Jackson for their recent legal issues. Both players set to miss the first 7 games of next year. And Barry Bonds 0 for 5 today, and the Giants lost to the Dodgers. Bonds went 0 for 12 in the series against L.A. and is now just 1 for 24 since hitting his last home run. Stay tuned to ESPN after the Cardinals and the Phillies. It's the ESPYs here on ESPN.
Adam Kennedy with the first pitch, fly ball to left. Pat Burrell handles it, and 2 men are gone. Clay Condrey got the first 2 outs of the inning, inheriting Scott Rowland, the runner at first. 3 runs are in, 6-0. The Cardinals lead. Albert Pujols with a spectacular home run. Back in 1930, the Philadelphia Phillies had a team that hit .315. That was their team batting average. You saw the current Phillies lead the league with 5.3 runs a game. Those Phillies averaged 6.2 runs a game. And they finished dead last, 40 games out of first. Not even close. They had 2 guys hit over .380 on that team. The ground ball by Yadier Molina and Jimmy Rollins to Chase Utley for the force out on Rowland. Nicely done by Condrey. But the Cardinals get 3 and lead 6-0 as we head to the last of the 5th. Sunday night baseball from Philadelphia. The Phillies, 3rd place in the National League East, 4 games back of the Mets when the day began. Mets in 1st, Atlanta in 2nd. Both of those teams have won their games today as Chris Coast just entered the game as part of a double switch in the first half of this inning. Takes a called strike from Adam Wainwright. Leadoff man Jimmy Rollins is on deck. That's just foul past 3rd. 2 strikes to Coast. Coast this year has had 22 at-bats in the big leagues, 8 hits, including a homer. Jimmy Rollins is on deck. The Phillies bullpen is busy. There's the veteran, Jose Mesa, getting ready now. Off the outside. 1 ball and 2 strikes. So the Mets, who struggled, though, for several weeks with the way the Braves struggled for much of the month of June, and the fact the Phillies were way behind earlier this year, Mets could have it almost put away by now. That's a fly ball to Schumacher, and Coast is retired. Jimmy Rollins coming up now. Peter Gammons. What about this National League East?
Tom Gordon today told me that the respiratory problems he had and the shoulder problems he had are both cleared up. He will likely be activated tomorrow. Brett Myers may be activated in a couple of weeks. And as you know, in this ballpark, you need the bullpen. Now,
Rollins to center field, and again Schumacher. They kept Rollins off the bases today. He's 0 for 3.
They still need another starter. They were in looking at Jose Contreras today. But, you know, the comebacks, Gordon, Myers, you have John Smoltz coming back with the Braves probably Wednesday. We might be lucky enough to get him next Sunday night against the Cardinals. And very important, Pedro Martinez. He's starting to throw off the mound. Omar Minaya told me today that he may well pitch in a minor league game at the end of next week. So might be the middle of August and Pedro comes back. And those are pretty important pitchers to throw into that race.
You know, John, you were talking about the Mets and, you know, how they have, stayed close to the pack. In my opinion, it just shows how great a job Willie Randolph did last year. Because last year they were hurting pitching-wise as well, and they won by a big margin. This year their pitching is not much better, yet they're still in first place.
Shane Victorino with a call and strike. 2-1. Victorino has singled and been safe on an error. If he can get aboard, Chase Utley and Ryan Howard will follow. Yeah, the hard times have visited the Mets here the last several weeks. The Mets back on May 29th had a 4.5 game lead over the Phillies, a 1.5 games over the Braves, and they were 8 over the Phillies at that time,
5 over the Braves,
and since then they're 5 games under 500. But the Braves and Phillies are playing better than 500. Haven't exactly played great since then, and still they've gained a lot of ground on the Mets in the interim. So at this point, a 3-team race in the National League East. That was a high curveball caught by Kennedy. And it's a 3-up and 3-down inning. Cardinals with things well under control right now, back of Adam Wainwright, leading 6-0.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Brought to you by Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn, look again. New Miller Chill, a refreshing light beer brewed with a hint of lime and salt. And Harley Davidson, live by it.
Overcast skies above Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Sunday Night Baseball, remember, right after the ball game, the ESPY Awards program. Although it wasn't an ESPY, Joe Morgan, my partner, won the Golden Fanatic Award. Congratulations again, Joe. Adam Wainwright with a comebacker to the new pitcher, Jose Mesa, makes a high throw to Ryan Howard, but Ryan's one of those guys who's already up there to begin with. So 1 away. Jose Mesa on in relief of Clay Condrey. An 8.06 ERA. Remember, he started the year with the Tigers, and he was getting knocked around in Detroit. They finally cut him loose. The Phillies, desperate for healthy arms in the bullpen, signed him. But it's been a very poor season for Mesa, former closer, and one time one of the best closers around. Eckstein, the leadoff man, takes the ball inside. Eckstein is 0 for 3. All the other games around Major League Baseball are over with. Cardinals trailing the Brewers and the Cubs in the Central Division. Both the Brewers and Cubs won their games earlier. So the Cardinals, it's not, in a way, Joe, they're the Cardinals. They've got Albert Pujols. Scott Rowland is a guy who just might come on and have a big second half. Eckstein is back. They have a lot of things where you think they could be a lot better than they've been. But right now they have to sort of just get themselves together. Then they could maybe think about making a run. They're 7 games under 500 as Eckstein grounds out. He's 0 for 4 in this game.
But when you talk to Tony La Russa, he said they could have been buried in the first half. They were only 5 games under 500. He said it could have been a lot worse with all the injuries and everything else that went against them. But he's also saying that if they can just stay hot, stay around, get Rowland hot, get Jim Edmonds back. He's thinking that you may get Chris Carpenter back. They're not sure when. And they just feel like they're going to get more from Rowland, Edmonds, and Eckstein in the second half.
Here is Schumacher, who's hit 2 doubles in this game. And there is Burrow. And a very quick inning there, a 5-pitch inning for Jose Mesa. The big guys, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, and then all-star Aaron Rowand coming up. The Phillies are down 6-0. So Ryan Howard up for a couple of awards, including the breakthrough athlete, along with Devin Hester in the NFL, Kevin Durant in college basketball, Morgan Pressel, the youngest woman to win a major. That's coming up right after Sunday Night Baseball, the ESPYs for 2007. And the big hitters are up here with the Phillies. Chase Utley, who has gone 0 for 2 in this game, fouls one out of play. Chase has been on been up there with men on base twice, but he hit into a double play in the first, and then he grounded out with the bases loaded and 2 down in the third. And that was a big moment of this game for Adam Wainwright. The Phillies had a chance to jump right back into the game at that point. And that slider, little slide piece off the inside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He has changed his pattern. He's done a great job. That's why, you know, we're talking about him maturing as a starting pitcher. You have to be able to change your patterns on these hitters. You can't pitch them the same way 3 or 4 at bats in a game. And he has done that very well so far in this ball game.
Curveball in the dirt. 2-1 the count to Chase Utley. 70 pitches thrown by Wainwright so far. No runs, 4 hits allowed. 3 strikeouts, only 1 walk. And he shut down the 2 biggest sluggers, Utley and Howard. Ryan Howard on deck. Both hitless so far. And there's that fastball with a little movement back toward the plate. And it's too far in. 3-1 the count. Chase Utley just continues to get better and better. And he hits for power. He hits for extra base hits, doubles, triples, and a single on occasion. He drops in there as well.
Let's take a look at Wainwright, and I'll explain to you what I meant by him changing his pattern to these good hitters. We're going to start with Jimmy Rollins. Change up away, gets a fly ball, then a cutter to in on the hands of Utley, and a fastball that runs the other way. We saw one cut in and away. Curveball, this is the second time around to Rollins. Curveball to Utley the second time around, then a 4-seam fastball, the straight one on the inside part of the plate, and he's been able to handle him. He got behind 3-1 there to Utley, and he had to give him a fastball, and he got a base hit.
Phillies get their leadoff man on base for the first time tonight. And a ball up and away from Ryan Howard. Ball 1. Howard is struck out looking on that fastball you just saw coming from the inside and back over the plate. And he grounded out to second on that 4-seam fastball the last time.
It looked like Howard was looking for an off-speed pitch there. He didn't stride at all on that pitch.
High pop-up. Eckstein, shallow left. The wind plays some tricks with it, but Eckstein.
And this is interesting here. This is one of those situations where your catcher can help you. He could see that he was looking for a changeup, something off speed, the first pitch. So what does he do? He comes right back with a fastball. Now watch, he's late on it because he was looking for something off speed. Here's the fastball. Watch where he contacts it. See, he's late on getting. He couldn't get the barrel out in front, and he pops up. But I think the catcher helped him there by seeing that Howard was looking for a changeup or something off speed on the first pitch. He didn't stride at all.
So Howard is 0 for 3. Now Aaron Rowan will come up. Ryan Howard playing against his old hometown team. He's from the St. Louis area. Grew up a great Cardinal fan. Aaron Rowan, who batted with the bases loaded in the last of the 9th inning in the All-Star game. And made the final out of the game. And of course, in St. Louis and in San Francisco and all around the country, people were wondering, well, where was Albert Pujols? Rowan, for his part, said that he was grateful for the chance to have that at bat, and he felt he got a real good swing and just missed knocking in the tying and winning runs. He ended up hitting a fly ball to right field, but he said it was not one of those little quarter-inch deals where he was just a little bit away from driving it right over the head of the right fielder. 2-0 the count. And a foul ball. And after that game, Joe, it sounded like Albert Pujols was a little upset with Tony La Russa for not getting into the game at all. Here's that final pitch from Frankie Rodriguez. High fastball. And that was the end of this year's All-Star game. Tony La Russa said that he was saving Albert because he needed, in case they went extra innings, if somebody got hurt, he needed somebody to be able to put in there who could play different positions, could play whatever position. And that is a slider for a called strike to Aaron Rowan. 2-2. But after the game, it sounded like Albert Pujols was a little miffed, although he has talked to Tony about it since then, and both of them have said, oh, there's no hard feelings at all.
Well, it was a reaction at the time, but, you know, they have such a close relationship
that they weren't going to let something like one at bat come between them the rest of the season.
I think it was National League fans who were really upset with Tony. There's a foul out of play. The best chance to win would have been, you would think, to put up one of the greatest hitters in the game at that spot with the bases loaded.
But Tony's explanation was, look, all these guys are all-stars, and so it's kind of tough to pinch hit for one guy with another all-star. But you're not, you know, Albert Pujols is not just another all-star.
We're talking about one of the all-stars among all-stars in Albert Pujols, with the game on the line right there with 2 down in the 9th inning and the bases loaded.
But he did get to participate in the home run derby, because he did say, if I'd have known I wasn't going to get to play, I wouldn't have made that trip. Yeah. But he did participate in home run derby.
Well, I think, you know, the whole thing about having a player and all that I still think somewhere we have lost our way in baseball. The All-Star game is supposed to be the fans' game, and this idea that the whole point of it is to get all the All-Stars in the game is wrong-headed. That did not used to be the case. And if guys go out there and they don't appear in the game, well, so be it. That one just skimmed off the bat of Aaron Rowan, apparently. 3 balls, 2 strikes the count. The runner at first and 1 out. I think Tony La Russa was trying to get everybody in there, trying to make everybody happy. But as a fan of the game, maybe it didn't make me happy or a lot of fans happy. We want to see the best guys. We want to see them out there a lot.
Well, John, actually on Tuesday, he did call Rick Hummel of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and say, you know, upon further review, I was wrong. I made a mistake. The fans wanted to see Albert Pujols play, and I should have put him up there.
Well, I read that too, and I agree with him. But I think also he maybe could have had him in there even earlier in the game and had any one of 6 or 7 guys who had not played that he could have gone to if the game had gone extra innings if they were needed. And this was not unusual. Joe, when you played, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, a lot of guys would be in there for the duration or until the game got real lopsided.
Yeah, especially I remember in playing in Atlanta, Hank Aaron played the whole game, I think. When I was there, Mays played the whole game several times.
Ooh. That one got Aaron Rowan. He got drilled. Well, it was a hard way to do it, but the Phillies need base runners, and Rowan is aboard. Utley moves over to second, and the batter will be Pat Burrell. Burrell's been doing some of his best hitting all year right now as Rowan rather slowly makes his way to first. The Phillies bullpen is getting ready with Brian Sanchez.
John, I think one of the things that's different about the All-Star game is you have to remember they used to have Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, maybe Frank Robinson in the outfield. They're not going to change those guys. They would play until the game was decided one way or the other. And then you would start to bring in extra men. Just think about it. Ted Williams hit a game-winning home run in the bottom of the 9th once, another home run off of Rip Sewell in the extra innings. So he had to be playing the whole game in order to do that. So it has changed a lot where you're trying to get everyone in the game. And I understand that because it has become more of an exhibition now than it was before.
Well, maybe speaking on behalf of a very large number of fans, we don't want to watch that. Just the exercise is all about just getting everybody in. And maybe if they're concerned about the TV ratings going the wrong direction, well, maybe that's part of the reason.
Well, one of the things that's supposed to help, you know, with home field advantage going to the winning team, that's supposed to help that. But I don't see much of a change. I see a very minor change as far as trying to get everyone in. It just seems like everyone's still trying to get everyone a chance to play.
Pat Burrell trying to cut into this Cardinal lead, but quickly he's behind in the count. 0-2. Burrell is grounded out and singled in this game. Chase Utley at second base. Aaron Rowan at first base. Rowan just hit by a pitch for the 14th time this year. He is second in the National League in being hit by pitches. The guy who leads the league is the runner at second base right now, Chase Utley. There's Greg Dobbs on deck. 1 out. Slider misses off the outside. 1-2. Brooks Robinson told me that 1967, when the game was in Anaheim, they played 15 innings, and Brooksy played all 15.
And Tony Perez was the hero.
He hit a home run in the 15th.
As you just come in the game in the late innings, too.
Even as recently as 1987, when the game was in Oakland, Dave Winfield, I think it was a 12 or 13 inning game. Dave Winfield went the distance. Then with the Yankees. And that's a ball. 2-2 the count now to Pat Burrell.
Well, at one time, John, it was considered just an honor just to make the team. Now you have to play, I guess, is part of, you know, people's thinking. But before, it was just an honor to be on the team.
Mike Young went to Jim Leland after the game, and he said, I want to thank you for getting me on the team. And Jim Leland said, I really apologize for not getting you in there. And Mike Young said, oh, come on, stop it. Are you kidding? It was an honor just to be here. Now it's 3-2 to Pat Burrell. This is Sunday Night Baseball. This is normally when we come on the air, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Tonight we're taking you right up to the ESPYs for 2007, and we're in the last of the 6th inning. The St. Louis Cardinals trying to avoid being swept in this series. They've got a 6-0 lead back of that man, Adam Wainwright. Albert Pujols has launched a spectacular home run with a man aboard. But here are the Phillies down by 6. They've got 2 men on, 1 man out, and the powerful Pat Burrell trying to help them cut into that lead.
And John, Pat Burrell has been the hottest hitter in the National League since July 1st. He came into the ballgame hitting .476 in July.
So Charlie Manuel confirmed it before the game, said, well, he swung the bat the best he swung all year right now. Too high, and he walks it. And now the bases are loaded for the left-handed hitting Dobbs. And Dave Duncan, the Cardinal pitching coach, is going to go out to speak to Adam Wainwright, who suddenly is laboring in this inning. And in the bullpen, there is a stirring. They're going to get something going out there. That's Russ Springer, the veteran right-hander. Springer is going to be joined by a left-hander. Is that a lefty? I think a lefty is also joining him out there. Troy Cate, a left-hander, is up in the bullpen as well. There's Cate, number 61, along with Springer, number 36. So the Phillies leading the league in runs, highest scoring team in the National League, had the bases loaded with 1 out. And Greg Dobbs coming up. Dobbs, who has been a pretty good find. In the offseason, he was put on waivers by the Mariners. And the Phillies picked him up, and Dobbs came into this game hitting .300. Got 34 runs batted in. Sellout crowd at Citizens Bank Park. Just under 45,000 here. And a good slider. 0-1.
Smart pitch there by Wainwright. He wanted to stay away from first pitch fastball. Dobbs was probably looking dead red there on that first pitch.
With the pitcher due up next, Wes Helms has come out on deck. Bases loaded. The infield double play depth with 1 out. Utley, Rowan, and Burrell the runners. Popped it up. The infield fly rule. Eckstein catches it anyway. As soon as they call the infield fly, the batter is automatically out.
And John, this may look like just another fastball, but it was a perfectly placed fastball in under the hands, and he's not able to extend and get to it, and he gets the pop-up, which he wanted. He wanted a ground ball or a pop-up. See where he's set up inside, right under the hands. It moves a little bit back over the plate, but you can see he's going to be late on it right there. He's late getting to the ball, and he pops it up.
Now Wes Helms. The Phillies scored 10 runs here yesterday, 13 on Friday. They have not been able to score at all tonight, and this is the second inning in which they've had the bases loaded. They got the bases loaded after 2 were down in the 3rd, and Adam Wainwright got Chase Utley to ground down. Now they've had the bases loaded here with 1 out, but Dobbs popped up. You see Zagurski, a lefty, up in the bullpen, along with Sanchez, the right-hander, who's toweling off at the moment. Zagurski, number 59. One of those will come in the 7th inning. Albert Pujols will be leading off the 7th. The curveball in the dirt, knocked down by Yadier Molina.
Well, we talked about Wainwright maturing as a starting pitcher. Well, you can see that here. When he got the bases loaded, he started reaching back, getting a little extra on his fastball, and that's what you do. You pace yourself until you get in trouble, then you reach back, you get a little extra to try to end the inning.
This has been a high-stress inning for him. He's thrown a lot of pitches in this inning. That was his 27th pitch. Scott Rowland over to Kennedy for the force out on Burrell, and they get through it again. So the high-flying Phillies offense continues to sputter tonight. They are 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Albert Pujols coming up. Top of the 7th inning, Sunday Night Baseball from Philadelphia. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, Peter Gammons. And the Cardinals with a 6-0 lead over the Phillies. One more loss, and the Phillies will have lost 10,000 games in their history, more than any other team. They already have the record. It's one of those round numbers, so they'll be the first to get to 10,000. Brian Sanchez, 28-year-old right-hander out of Lamar University, on to pitch, the 4th pitcher of the game used by the Phillies. And Albert Pujols, who hit a long home run off the back wall, off the brick hitter's backdrop. He hit it over the wall. He hit it over the botanical gardens out there and off the bricks. 441 feet was the estimate. And Sanchez misses. 1 ball and 2 strikes. The score was 3-0 when Pujols with a man aboard hit this one. What a shot it was. Off the bricks there and back into the forest. The next pitch was to Chris Duncan over the 398 shot. And 2 pitches. And the game went from 3-0 to 6-0 on those 2 pitches. Albert has homered 3 times in this series. 3 homers and 11 at-bats after going 22 games and 77 at-bats without any at all. Oh, man. What do you think, Joe? This one going to make it?
Yes.
A long home run for Albert Pujols again, his 4th of the weekend, and here he comes. Almost as if to underscore the guy who didn't hit in the All-Star game. What could have happened in that All-Star game?
Well, he got behind 0-2 because he wanted to take a couple of looks at a couple of pitches. I don't think he wanted to go 0-2, but he wanted to take a look at the new pitcher. Fastball on the outside corner, curveball, beautiful curveball, slider away. And he tries to come back with another fastball after this slider, and you see where it is. And not a bad spot after all the pitches were away. He tried to come inside, and that's why Albert Pujols is such a good hitter.
Albert is 3 for 4, 2 homers, 3 batted in. He's got 20 home runs for the year now.
And that one out he made, John, he was actually going the other way to move a runner along. He wasn't giving himself up, but he was going the other way.
One time he made it out, he set up a run, which later scored an infield out. He would not have scored had Albert not gotten him over the 3rd.
Runner at second, no one out. He hit a ball to second base.
Chris Duncan hit his 17th home run of the year. And after Albert's homer in the 5th inning. Broken back. Jimmy Rollins, nice pickup.
Man.
Low throw, but dug out by Howard.
Nice play by Jimmy Rollins. He showed a lot of range there, as well as good hands, because he got a funny hop there right at the end. This is why he's such a good shortstop. Watch quick feet. I mean, he just, look at that. He reaches down, grabs it, soft hands, quick feet. So that's a tough play because he had to reach down while he was trying to get to the ball. And he comes up and fires a strike to first base.
A low strike. And here's Scott Rowland. Fastball in there for a called strike. Rowland has hit a double to left center, knocked in a run with a ground out. And then he lined the single to left his last time, so he's 2 for 3. But Albert's bat is speaking loudly in Pujols-like fashion here to start the post-All-Star break portion of the season. And Scott Rowland is another guy that they need to get going. I talked to Jim Edmonds during batting practice tonight. And he's had physical problems. He's on the disabled list. He said that he feels great, and he's ready to play. And he's another guy. Those guys have been a big 3 for many years for the Cardinals. 3 extremely productive sluggers.
But when he's swinging well, he can break up the combination of Rolen and Pujols being right-handed. He can fit in between if Tony La Russa wants to do that.
Edmonds was not doing a whole lot of hitting before he got hurt. Hitting only .238 for the year with 7 home runs in 56 games. And he still was, when the season began, he was still suffering some of the after effects of that post-concussion syndrome that plagued him at the end of last year. Scott Rowland strikes out on number 2.
John, while we have a moment, I want to send our condolences to the Crawford family, the great umpire, and Shag Crawford. He was 90 years old. He passed away when I was a rookie. He was one of the great umpires in the National League. His son Joey and his other son Jerry are also NBA official and National League umpire.
Encarnacion crushes one. Gone. A home run. A line drive into the bleachers. And it is 8-0 Cardinals. The 4th home run of the night for the Cardinals.
And man, they're hitting it hard. That was a hanging breaking ball. And then Encarnacion hit a line drive. But again, you know, this ballpark really gets your adrenaline flowing, because you know if you hit it good, just a line drive, it'll go out of the ballpark. Doesn't have to be a long fly ball. This is a breaking ball, and it doesn't do much on the inside part of the plate, and he hammers it. See, that's a line drive. It may not go out of Busch Stadium.
In the dirt to Adam Kennedy. But Joe, Shag Crawford, 90 years old, passed away this week. And he was from this area. He passed away in Glens Mills, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. As you mentioned, his son Jerry, still a National League umpire.
Well, I said National League umpire, just an umpire.
Now,
Major Leagues, yeah.
He was a National
League umpire.
Shag Crawford was a National League umpire. Jerry's still in the big leagues. And Joey is still an NBA referee. They both started. The 2 sons officiating, one in the NBA, one in the major leagues, in 1977. And Shag Crawford umpired the very first game ever played at the old Veterans Stadium in 1971. And in the farewell ceremonies 4 years ago, they brought him back. His son Jerry was the umpire working that day. When the game ended, they brought Shag out along with Jerry, and they were at home plate as part of the farewell ceremonies.
Well, Joe West, one of the umpires presently umpiring in the major leagues, he's been trying to get Shag into the Hall of Fame for a long period of time. He's been pushing.
That ball is hit high, way back there in the right field. Another home run. Adam Kennedy with his first home run as a Cardinal, and it was a big fly, way out of here. The 5th home run of the night for the Cardinals, the 3rd in this inning, and it is 9-0.
Now, we saw 4 in a row earlier in Boston this year. This is 3 in the same inning.
Man, that was a no doubt about it home run for a guy who had not hit any in his first 219 at bats this year. And he hits a tape measure shot. Strike 1 to Yadier Molina. It's the 2nd time in the game the Cardinals have hit back-to-back homers. As John Sterling of the Yankees broadcast says, back-to-back and cheek-to-cheek. And we're getting a look at why the Phillies are in the market for some pitching. As many runs as they've scored, remember they're only 2 games over 500. They're still right there in the race, but they're still a little short of pitching. As Peter Gammons mentioned earlier, they're hopeful that after he threw tonight in a simulated game before this game, actually this afternoon, there's Jim Edmonds still under the disabled list, although I think he wants to get activated right now.
Yeah, he's watching these balls fly out of here.
Put me in, Tony. I'm ready. Give me a bat. Molina into center, and Rowan takes it. So the Cardinals are having a wonderful time here tonight. Albert Pujols with his 2nd home run of the game, and that got them started leading off the inning. And Encarnacion with a line shot into the left field bleachers. And right after him, Adam Kennedy with a soaring, majestic home run. 9-0, St. Louis. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, our venue. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, who won the Golden Fanatic Award tonight, and Peter Gammons. And there's ball one from Adam Wainwright to Chris Coast, hitting 9th in the order after he entered as part of a double switch in the 5th inning. He is 0 for 1 since coming in. Leadoff man Jimmy Rollins is on deck. 9-0 the score. Fastball off the outside. So Adam Eaton, and the Texas Rangers traded a lot of talent to get him in Texas last year. He spent a great deal of the season on the disabled list. Adrian Gonzalez has been the cleanup hitter for the Padres, their home run and RBI leader. And Chris Young has been one of their top starting pitchers and an all-star this year. Went there in that deal. Base hit to center for Coast. And then Adam Eaton picked up this year by the Phillies, but although he's won 8 games, his ERA 5.69. I'm sure they were hoping for a lot better, and he did not last very long tonight. The Phillies have a long night ahead of them. They play, not only do they play tomorrow night, they play in Los Angeles tomorrow night. They'll be flying most of the night, then have to play in LA tomorrow. And not only do they play in LA 3 games against the first place Dodgers of the Western Division, then they go to San Diego right after that. And the Padres, just a game back of the Dodgers, they'll be facing some of the best pitching in the National League all week long. Here's Jimmy Rollins. He's 0 for 3. And that fastball in there for a called strike. They're talking about teams looking for pitching. The Phillies. And Charlie Manuel's not, he's kind of outspoken about it. Well, what do you need, Charlie? Well, we need starters. We need a little relief help, although he's hoping that they're going to get Gordon back tomorrow and maybe Brett Myers in a week or so. And if they're throwing well the way we've seen them throw in the past, and the bullpen might be in good shape. There's So Taguchi. He replaced Chris Duncan, a defensive replacement in left field, here in the 7th. Jimmy Rollins 0 for 3, having a big year, 18 homers. He started this night with more RBIs than Albert Pujols, even though, as you pointed out, Joe, he's been a leadoff man most of the year. Now, Jimmy Rollins is put away rather quickly. He has struck out twice against Adam Wainwright. Well, the Phillies talking about maybe acquiring pitching, and Peter Gammons, there are other teams that could get a boost to their pitching staff within.
Well, John, in the American League, you start with Boston and Kurt Schilling. I mean, he's going to throw again at the end of the week, but he will be back. And there's nobody on the trade market comparable to Kurt Schilling as one of the best money pitchers of this generation.
Foul ball by Victorino, just barely foul. Right past Rob Drake, the first base umpire.
And I think a very underrated guy returning is Philip Hughes with the Yankees. He's got one of the great arms of any young pitcher in baseball. He missed 2.5 months, but he is really good. I mean, I'd like to add Joe Chamberlain into that. I watched him last night pitching Trenton. He could be unbelievable. And then you look at the Tigers. They need that bullpen back. Joel Zumaya with his finger. He's going to start throwing around August 15th. We shall see. But Fernando Rodney says he's healthy for the first time all year. Get those 2 guys back for the stretch drive. They are significant additions.
And the Tigers, they had some excellent pitching. Kenny Rogers, Justin Verlander, Bonham, and things like that. But that bullpen was what you thought of last year with the Tigers.
Absolutely.
Shane Victorino almost had an extra base hit there a moment ago. 1-1 the count, facing Wainwright. And the changeup in the dirt knocked down by Molina. And it's 2-1.
John, I don't believe there's any team in baseball that's not looking for some pitching. I mean, that's the situation that we're in. Everyone wants more pitching. And I'm still a firm believer that you have to have a pretty good bullpen. But everything still goes with the starters. The starters are the ones that get you to the bullpen in the right way, where you're not forced to go to the bullpen.
And that's been the Yankees' problem much of the year.
Exactly.
They've had that bullpen is beleaguered and battered.
Well, they had guys who were averaging less than 5 innings, you know, the first month or so of the season. They're starting pitching, so that puts a tremendous load on your bullpen. That's why you look at the teams with good starting pitching, and their bullpens usually set up much better than the other guys because, again, they're going to the bullpen because they want to, not because they're forced to.
2-2 to count. Victorino, little dribbler. Albert Pujols. That is out number 2. Over to second goes Coast. And now Chase Utley is coming up. Chase Utley, all-star, and one of the leading hitters in the game, second base or otherwise. And I know here in Philadelphia, there's been a lot of talk as to Jimmy Rollins maybe being the best all-round shortstop in Phillies history. And Chase Utley certainly up there in the list as well. And maybe Utley and Rollins together might be the best keystone combination, as they used to call it, the Phillies have ever had.
You know what? He hits the ball hard, John. He's not like a normal, you know, second baseman hits line drives, left field, right field. I mean, when he hits it, it jumps off his bat. And we saw that the last at bat. The ball just jumped through the infield. It was a single, but the ball just jumps off his bat. But that's also why he's able to drive the ball out of the ballpark as well. I always believe you have to either be strong to hit the ball out of the ballpark or have a quick bat. The quick bat can generate some bat speed.
That is foul. That's the bag at first. A little too quick that time.
Yeah. And the ideal guys are the ones that are quick and strong. You know, someone like Gary Sheffield, someone like Johnny Bench, someone who is quick and strong. That's your ultimate hitter. You know, Barry Bonds. Those guys are quick and strong.
When you played second base for the Phillies, the shortstop was it Ivan de Jesus?
Ivan de Jesus.
Not that you guys weren't really good.
No, we weren't. Not when I went 0 for 35. How are you going to compare? We can't compare.
That's right.
With this group.
You were great in September, though. Man, the big curveball, he'll run as the ball was in the dirt. It's thrown out by Molina. And it's been that kind of night for Utley and for the Phillies. They're trailing 9-0 onto the 8th.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And in part by Kia Motors. Kia, the power to surprise. And Chase Freedom. Finally, a credit card that lets you switch between cashback and points.
Here come the Cardinals into the 8th. Ryan Ludwig, the pinch hitter for Adam Wainwright. Wainwright, who has a shutout going against the highest scoring team in the league, but he's thrown 109 pitches. So with a 9-0 score, Ludwig is up as the pinch hitter for Wainwright. Facing Brian Sanchez. Sanchez, who came out in the 7th inning, gave up 3 home runs. Pujols, Encarnacion, and Kennedy all were deep against him. Now facing Ludwig. Ludwig's got 6 home runs and only 128 at bats. David Eckstein on deck. Good fastball right by him on a 2-0 count, so it's 2-1 now. The ESPYs coming up right after the game. You're not up for an ESPY.
No, I used to get a vote. I didn't vote this time, but I would have voted for Ryan Howard as the best new performer.
Okay.
Breakthrough performer.
Breakthrough performer.
Yeah, I would have voted for him.
Well, I wonder if he wins. We'll have to find out when we watch the ESPYs right after the game. Sounds like Ryan had a real good time. ESPYs are out there in LA the day after the All-Star game. There's a ball outside. He's also up for the best major league player, along with Albert Pujols, Derek Jeter, Justin Morneau, and Johan Santana.
Look at those numbers for all of them. Fabulous numbers.
So he won the MVP in the National League over Albert Pujols.
Right.
And Justin Morneau won the MVP in the American League. That's most valuable, not necessarily the best player of the year, the best performer. That's deep into center. Rowan's going way back. A home run! Ryan Ludwig with a pinch hit homer. And the Cardinals have hit 6 home runs. That is the most they've hit in a game this year. Now, Joe, that must be a pretty good wind blowing out the center. That ball just took off.
Well, the flags are leaning that way. They're not really blowing that hard, John, but the ball is really carrying well here. I think the ball, when I was on the field today, it was just really carrying well. Fastball on the inner half. The key is that the ball is belt high. None of these pitches have been down that have gone out of the ballpark. They've all been belt high and above.
Now Eckstein, and he takes the ball. So
now if he goes deep, I'm going to know something, that the wind is blowing out.
I'm just, on behalf of Brian Sanchez, I'm saying it's about a 50-mile-an-hour wind blowing straight up. Because he has only faced 7 hitters, and 4 of them have hit home runs against him.
I would like to help you out in defending him, John, but the sound of the ball coming off the bat tells me that they're making great contact.
I may have to get a replay just on the sound of that last one. Ryan Ludwig, well, he got 7 home runs and only 129 at bats. Let's listen. Listen here, Joe. This is what you heard.
See, that doesn't sound wind-aided.
Boom.
Yeah.
And that's it for Eckstein. They've had 10 runs, and Eckstein, the igniter at the top of the order, is 0 for 5. Here's the SportsCenter 30 at 30 update with Steve Berthiaume.
Thank you, John. In Chicago, Tony Stewart finally got into victory lane. Took him 19 races. That's the longest he's had to wait for a victory since his rookie season in 1999. And Barry Bonds was 0 for 5 today, and the Giants lost to the Dodgers. Bonds went 0 for 12 in the series and is only 1 for 24 since hitting his last home run. The ESPYs follow the Cardinals and Phillies here on ESPN.
All right, Steve, the ESPYs coming up. Skip Shoemaker was hit 2 doubles. He's 2 for 4. 10-0. The Cardinals, they've hit 6 home runs in this game. The most they've hit in any game this year. Cardinals in their first 87 games had hit only 72 home runs. So they've not been a big power team. And nearly half of their home runs for the year had been hit by the combination of Albert Pujols and Chris Duncan. That kicks foul about halfway to first. 2 strikes to count to Schumacher. Albert Pujols on deck. He's already gotten 2 home runs in the game.
John, they had a T-ball game today at the White House. Tommy Lasorda and Don Newcomb took a group of kids from L.A. to play baseball on the South Lawn at the White House. I had a chance to do that once. It's a fun deal.
I heard Carl Ravitch from Baseball Tonight.
It's a fun deal.
And then he interviewed the president. And Pat Burrell takes it. Schumacher retired. And here comes Albert Pujols. One of the ESPY nominations is for best team. And the Cardinals, as the World Series champions, were one of the nominees. I guess that must be automatic, because they didn't really have a great year other than the fact that the bottom line was they won it all.
Well, everyone there is a champion, so I would say that's the criteria.
So which one was the best of all those?
I'm a baseball player, baseball fan. I voted for the Cardinals.
Colts were pretty good.
Well, San Antonio was pretty good. They swept Cleveland, but I'm still voting for the Cardinals.
Albert Pujols, twice in his career, has hit 3 home runs in a game. And he's hit 2 in his last 2 at-bats in this one. 2-run shot to center in the 5th, and then he launched another one, a solo in the 7th. A 2-run shot in the 5th was off the hitter's backdrop, off the bricks in center field. A ball and a strike. The last time he hit 3 home runs in a game was last September against the Pirates. The 20th time he's hit 2 or more homers in a game. 1-1 the count, and the slider, center field. Rowan going back. Now he pulls up. This one stays in the yard. Albert, the Chevrolet player of the game. Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to Major League Baseball's youth outreach program, reviving baseball in inner cities. Congratulations to Albert Pujols. 10-0 Cardinals.
Achieve MPG happiness. Observe huge cabinosity. Experience giddy-uppiness. Introducing a new kind of crossover vehicle, the highly enlightened Kia Rondo. Now with 2.9% APR plus 500 bonus cash. Welcome to Rondoism.
Introducing an unexpected new twist on cerveza, Miller Chill. The refreshing light beer brewed with a hint of lime and salt. Inspired by a Mexican recipe. It's Beerveza, brewed for a new level of refreshment.
Introducing Accelerate with protein. Proven to increase endurance up to 29% over your old sports drink. So while others fade, you can stay strong. Don't fade. Accelerate.
Turn a double play on pain with the powerful dual ingredient formula in new Excedrin Back and Body. Available at CVS Pharmacy. Check out ESPN.com and search Excedrin to enter the Excedrin Back and Body double play getaway. The pain stops. You don't. Excedrin. Go!
This painting season, you've got a lot of stuff to paint, but not a lot of time. The Wagner Power Painter with innovative lock-and-go cartridges lets you go from staining to painting in a snap. Wagner, paint fast, paint smart.
My performance is a reflection of how I take care of myself. GNC Mega Man Sport Multivitamin helps me do just that. It's a proprietary sports blend enhanced with antioxidants plus key amino acids. Game day starts with my multivitamin from GNC. Live well.
Tuesday on The Bronx is Burning.
I am the son of Sam.
The season may be over before it starts.
I am not paying Reggie Jackson to ride the bench.
The Bronx is Burning. Now on Tuesdays at 10 on ESPN.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
Sunday Night Baseball from Philadelphia. 10-0. The Cardinals ahead. And the Excedrin trivia question, Joe. Who has participated in the most Phillies losses? If they lose tonight, that'll be 10,000. The first team ever to reach 10,000. Larry Boa, Richie Ashburn, Michael Jack Schmidt, or Cy Williams?
I know that one. I know that one.
You know it?
Yeah, Cy Williams.
How did you know that?
Well, because you and Harry said they lost 100 games in a row for about 10 days. No. Can't be. Mike Schmidt, Michael Jack.
He played in 600 more games than anyone in Phillies history. Maybe that's the key to it.
Man.
And he was in 1,140 Phillies losses. Although they had a winning percentage in his career.
Okay, because I was going to have to get on him about that.
It's kind of a trick question.
Yeah, it is. Because I'm going to see him in 2 weeks at the Hall of Fame. And I was going to get on him about if they had a losing percentage in his career.
Now, the Phillies in their 125 years, as Ryan Howard is up against the relief pitcher, Troy Percival, the longtime closer of the Angels, and a great one. And they say he's been throwing real well. The Cardinals picked him up to bolster their bullpen. 2-1 the count to Ryan Howard. Got a 1.35 ERA. We started hearing stories early this year that Percival, whose career ended with arm trouble, was feeling healthy again. He was talking about auditioning for some teams, and the Cardinals ended up going after him. 2-2 now to Howard. Howard, who is 0 for 3 in the
He's
game.
throwing a lot of changeups to Howard. He used to have an overpowering fastball. Howard looking for a little too much there. 2 changeups in a row.
This used to be one of those matchups you'd see in the 9th inning with maybe a 1-run lead. But Isringhausen is the closer for the Cardinals. Hit a line drive into the gap in right center field to the wall. And Howard digging for second. His first hit of the game, a double. That is the first extra base hit of any kind by any Philly tonight. The Phillies, now while they will have 10,000 losses if they lose this one more than any other team, there are other teams whose winning percentage is lower than the Phillies, who just haven't been around as long. Devil Rays have not won quite 40% of their games, coming in as an expansion team. The Padres, who came in 1969 as an expansion team. The Rockies, another expansion team in '93. And the Texas Rangers, who were In that first wave of expansion, 1961, they actually were born as the expansion Washington Senators after the Senators moved to Minnesota. So here is Aaron Rowan, and that's ball one inside. And the Phillies over the years, Joe, and you're talking about Cy Williams, they had that stretch 31 years. They only had one winning season, 1918 through 1948. They had an owner by the name of William Baker, who named their old ballpark after himself, the Baker Bowl. And they had a great player who's in the Hall of Fame, Chuck Klein, left-handed hitter. And he was afraid that Chuck Klein might threaten the Babe's home run record. So they had a big wall in right field, and he put a big wire screen above that to make it more difficult for Klein to hit home runs, which you'd think would be just the opposite, right?
You would think so. He'd want to draw more fans.
But he was afraid that if Klein even approached the Babe's record or broke it, that he'd get a big new salary. So he just put up a bunch of wire to make it even harder for him to hit home runs. That is pulled foul. And they had a lot of owners like that, Joe, that, you know, sort of didn't have a whole lot of money. They had one guy who was a one-time shoe salesman, and his business strategy was that each year he would sell 2 players so he could make payroll. And if that wasn't quite enough, sometimes he'd sell office furniture right out of the Phillies offices to raise some cash. That was a guy named Jerry Nugent. Baker was a former New York City police commissioner. In addition to trying to keep one of his stars from hitting too many home runs, he traded a future Hall of Fame pitcher, a legendary pitcher by the name of Grover Cleveland Alexander. Traded him away for 2 players that you never heard of and $60,000 in cash. And Grover went on to win 300-something games for somebody else.
Well, maybe he was out of office furniture. Had to have some way to make payroll.
Aaron Rowan down on strikes, and there's one away. It was 1922, May the 15th, when they actually fell below 500. And they have not been at or above 500 ever since 1922. They're currently 8,810 wins, but 9,999 losses. So they'd have to have almost a 1,200 game winning streak to get back even. Here is Pat Burrell, who has grounded out, singled, and walked. And he fouls one away. There was an interesting article in Sports Illustrated about the Phillies and all those losses. They had players whose nickname had losses in them. They had a pitcher named Hugh Mulcahy. His nickname was Losing Pitcher. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to open up that series. We're going to go with Losing Pitcher Mulcahy. They had another pitcher named Pierce Childs. His nickname was What's the Use? I like that one. Like some of the, they said in the 20s, when their home field was the Baker Bowl. There's Zagurski getting ready in the bullpen. The Baker Bowl groundskeeper was so desperate for help to maintain the playing field and had so little money to do it, he hired some sheep. And between games, he put the sheep out in the outfield, let them trim the grass. When they weren't eating the field, they lived under the left field stands. High and tight. How about this one? Lefty O'Doul, the San Francisco native. In 1929, he hit .398. In 1930, he hit .383. And then Baker traded him away after that. And that was just before he passed away himself. So the last thing he did was trade away the guy who'd been their leading hitter for 2 straight years. 2-1 the count to Pat Burrell. And Percival catches the outside. 2-2. They had a guy, Eddie Sawyer was the manager in the 1960s. So we told you the ESPYs are coming up. Presented by Hummer and Under Armour. Right after the ball game, scheduled for 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Jimmy Kimmel and LeBron James, the co-hosts. Stay tuned for the ESPYs coming up.
I saw King James come in a King outfit as making his entrance. I saw a photo of that in the paper.
Well, we've always known he knows how to make an entrance. Pat Burrell called out on strikes, that one over the inside. 2 down. And Greg Dobbs will come up. In 1960, their manager was Eddie Sawyer. And after the opening day game, they lost to Cincinnati 9-4. This was opening day. He resigned. And they asked him why. He says, I'm 49 years old and I want to live to be 50. He just couldn't handle it. Even Gene Mauch was a great manager for many, many years. In 1961, he managed the Phillies, and they had a 23-game losing streak in late July and through into deep August. And Mauch said about that 23-game losing streak, no matter what we tried, it didn't work. The only thing that I didn't try was suicide. And as intense as Gene Mauch was, he may have thought about it a few times during that losing streak. Dobbs hits a foul. Of course, Gene Mauch was also the manager in '64. The Phillies had made a big turnaround. They looked like the best team in the National League by far. They had a 6.5 game lead with 12 games to go. And were headed to the World Series. And they lost 10 in a row. One of the most monumental collapses in the history of the game. Right down the stretch. That curve in the dirt, and Howard decides to stay at second. Well, they're down by 10.
His run definitely does not make a dent in that lead. You know, John, you're talking about '64. I got called up in '64. I got my first major league hit against the Phillies during that stretch when they lost 10 in a row. My first at bat in the big leagues, I got a base hit, and it was a game-winning hit, walk-off base hit. Mauch went into the locker room, threw stuff all around. He was mad because they'd lost like 8 in a row by then. And he said, you guys got beat by a guy that looks like a little league. That was my introduction to Gene Mauch. He threw all the food all over all these guys' clothes and everything else. And he said, you got beat by a guy that looked like a little leaguer. And it's funny because he and I became very close friends over the years, and even till the end when he was living in Palm Springs.
Well, was he right?
Well, I did look like I was 5'5", 140 pounds, so I don't know, maybe so. Yeah,
man,
that was my first major league hit, and it caused quite a stir.
So,
but they lost 10. I only contributed to one of those losses.
All right. Yeah. Well, but although a lot of guys went hungry that night.
Yeah, they did. That's the fact.
3-2 the count. Well, that was one of those losses. One of the it soon looks to be 10,000 losses for the Phillies. But I think the most important thing to remember about all those losses is how long they've been around. And there are several teams, as we saw in that earlier graphic, that have lost games at a much higher percentage than have the Phillies. Just haven't been around as long. On to the ninth. Sunday Night Baseball in high definition from Philadelphia. Next Sunday, we'll have the Cardinals again, and they will be in Atlanta. So we'll see Albert Pujols up against the likes of Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones. Looks like Andrew Jones
has been swinging the bat well.
As you speculated last Sunday, maybe he's gotten it going now. He's been off to a fine start in the second half. As So Taguchi gets a base hit to left field against Zagurski. Zagurski, the new Philadelphia pitcher, Mike Zagurski, the left-hander. The fifth Phillies pitcher of the game. And Taguchi, in his first at-bat of the night, came in as a defensive replacement for Duncan, the cleanup hitter, in the last of the seventh. And now, as you see, Michael Bourne also in the game. And Abraham Nunez now at shortstop. And a pinch hitter for Scott Rowland, it will be Brendan Ryan.
And John, we were talking about, it's the 60th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, and they had the honorary game that's on the White House lawn today. The T-ball game was in honor of Jackie Robinson, and the Dodgers sent a contingent out there: Tommy Lasorda, Don Newcomb, and a bunch of the kids, from L.A. And there's some of the Negro League stars there. Tommy Lasorda with the president, Don Newcomb on the right with the hat.
That was Clyde King. Looked like Clyde was giving him a copy of his book.
And that was, again, that was in honor of the 60th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, and a lot of the Negro League players were there.
Clyde King, who pitched in the Jackie Robinson era for the Dodgers, and one of the great gentlemen of the game.
Yeah,
lifelong baseball person. He's been a scout. He's been a manager. Been a front office executive. And that's ball 4 to Brendan Ryan. So Taguchi with a single, now Ryan with a walk. And here is Juan Encarnacion, who's hit one of the Cardinals 6 home runs tonight. Cardinals ahead 10-0, and there's Charlie Manuel saying, "Hey man, when are they going to give me some more pitching? I need a couple of pitchers here."
You know what's great about Charlie today, though, John, when I talked to him, I said, what turned this around? You know, Phillies started playing well and singing. He said, "Joe, I can't point to one thing except these guys play hard every single day." He said they go out there and they may get beaten up because the pitching's not as good, but the next day they're raring to go, ready to play. And he was basically talking about his 8 starters. He said Utley, you know, Rollins, Howard, Rowan. He said they all love to play. He said they just want to play every single day. And he said when you can play and put that energy in it every single day, you know, good things will usually happen. And he thinks that's why, you know, they were able to turn it around a little bit, even though their pitching hasn't been, you know, what it can be.
Plus, some of this young talent, guys like Howard, Utley, Rollins. I say young. I mean, these guys are starting to put in the years now. They've been around a little bit. That's high and tight, but they seem to have years and years ahead of them yet. But these guys are all out of their farm system, as is Pat Burrell and a few others. And I think it's been a while since the Phillies have home produced this many young impact players. Cole Hamels, an impact pitcher, leading their rotation. He's won 11 games. Encarnacion strikes out. And that is the first out of the 9th inning. Right after the game, the ESPYs, the best stories of the year, all told in one night. The ESPYs with hosts Jimmy Kimmel and LeBron James. The ESPYs presented by Hummer and Under Armour on ESPN. Coming up next. That's right. Fans here in Philly in the stands, they know about it.
Maybe if we hustle up, get back to the hotel, get a chance to see some of the winners.
Well, I'll let you drive then. If you're in such a hurry. Adam Kennedy hit a home run his last time. Been a miserable first year in St. Louis for Kennedy. But he's having a big night tonight. An RBI double in the second. Knocked in the first run of the game. And a long home run in the 7th. So Adam Kennedy certainly hoping for a revitalization in this second half after a horrible first half. Cardinals ahead 10-0, although they lost the first 2 games of this series already. And Zagorski's fastball misses. Molina on deck. We're talking about Clyde King being at the White House today. One of the great gentlemen of the game. They told a story about Clyde King coming in relief, and he hadn't had enough time to get warmed up. As Adam Kennedy is down on strikes. 2 men down. Boys and Girls Clubs of America is the official charity of Major League Baseball. Together, they create a positive place for kids. So they said to Pee Wee Reese, Clyde King, who was a pitcher, hadn't had enough warm-ups in the bullpen. So when he gets out here and starts taking his warm-ups, you pretend like something's in your eye, and we'll bring the trainer out and whatnot. And so Pee Wee does that, trying to stall for time. And then he's got all these guys around him. The first guy he hears is Clyde King saying, "Pee Wee, okay?" So much for that. The inning is over.
In Game 7 of the NLCS, Endy Chavez robbed Scott Rowland of a home run and doubled the runner off first with the most amazing catch and throw of the year. The Mets lost the game, but find out if Chavez can take home the trophy for best play tonight on the ESPYs.
Well, I would be shocked if that doesn't win.
Well, John, that's the best play I saw under pressure. I'm going to give him that by Endy Chavez. But I think the best play I saw all year was the one Gary Matthews Jr. made in center field there at, in Texas. I thought that was still the best play I've ever seen, by an outfield. That's the greatest catch I've ever seen. But that one was under pressure. So maybe he should win.
It was all on the line.
Yeah, everything was on the line.
Season was on the line.
Yeah, everything was on the line.
And he jumped 6 inches higher than he ever had in his life. This is Andy Cavazos. And Cavazos from Freeport, Texas. 26-year-old right-hander in relief for the Cardinals with a 10-0 game. So he's in a mop-up role. As Michael Bourne is the hitter, and quickly in a 2-strike hole. This guy is one of the fastest runners in the game, Joe. Just before we go to the ESPYs, I was hoping maybe he'd hit a gap or somewhere. That is foul off the third base side. There is a new third baseman. Brendan Ryan stays in to play third after he pinch hit for Scott Rowland. Albert Pujols 2 home runs tonight. 6 home runs total by the Cardinals. That ties the high for most home runs hit by any team in the big leagues this year. The Twins did it 9 days ago against the White Sox, and 2 other teams did it. And Bourne launches one deep. It is out of here, a home run. And he won't have to run. He can just trot.
Trots fast.
Is a Bourne supremacy.
Well, I met him in the clubhouse before the game, John. Real likable young fella. But he was just standing there talking to me. It's like he wanted to run. He wanted to move.
The first home run of his major league career.
By the way, did you go in their locker room today? Their locker room starts at home plate and finishes all the way to right field, down the right field line. That's how big it is. It's the biggest clubhouse I've ever seen. It's not even close. No other clubhouse is even close to being that big.
And the fans got the first home run Michael Bourne's ever hit, which that belongs on in his trophy case.
Well, you would like for it to get there.
Maybe they can convince that fan to give it up. Michael Bourne, in his 93rd major league at bat, hits his first home run. And it just barely made it. That clubhouse is so big, if he'd hit that ball in the clubhouse, I don't think he would have made it.
I would not have.
So an exciting moment for Michael Bourne. Well, usually he's hit little singles and then steals second and steals third.
Well, if they're going to go down to their 10,000th loss, John, at least it won't be a shutout. That would be a little salt on the wound.
Yeah, a little too ignominious.
Yeah. Look at this. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's Thomas Edison. Okay.
The Phillies were born in 1883. This is their 125th season, and they lost their debut game and went 17-81 in their first year. They won 17 games and lost 81. And booted. Adam Kennedy with his second error of the game. What's going on out there with Adam Kennedy? He had made only 4 errors all year, and he's made 2 tonight. Half again as many. Now Abraham Nunez will come up. Well, there's somebody from the ballpark staff here trying to see if they can get that baseball for Michael Bourne. And it sounds like that fan, or it looks like that fan, is willing to negotiate. And Albert Pujols gets the unassisted put out. Over to second base goes Coast.
You may be able to get a dozen autographed signed balls for that in the locker room.
I met a young guy in San Francisco who caught the winning home run in the home run derby of Vladimir Guerrero on Monday. And I saw him after the game, and he just wanted to see if he could meet Vlad and have him sign the ball for him. And I said, well, what if Vlad, he might want the ball, right? But Vlad shook his hand, signed the ball, and said, all the best. Keep it. And the kid kept that home run. It's a little different in hitting a monumental home run in a game versus home run derby. Vlad looked pretty excited when he won that.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, if you're going to compete, you want to win.
Shane Victorino, the hitter. He's 1 for 4 tonight. Another real fast runner. Phillies have some speed. The Phillies stolen 71 bases this year. They hit the home runs. They got lots of sluggers. But Victorino's got 28 steals. Rollins has 15. And Bourne, who's just a part-time player, he's got 13 steals and 13 tries. So that's most of their speed, those 3 guys. Victorino with Chase Utley on deck. Cutting over from third, Ryan. And he throws out Victorino. 2 down. So 1 out away from the ESPY Awards. And next Sunday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, back in our normal time, we'll be in Atlanta. St. Louis Cardinals and the Atlanta Braves. Albert Pujols. I have a feeling, Joe, that this weekend is the start of something very big for Albert. Remember last year, he went on the disabled list for a while last year.
Yes.
At the time he went on the disabled list, he had, 25 homers in less than about a third of a season. It looked like he was going to go after all the home run records last year before he got hurt. Here's Chase Utley. And Cavazos gets a called strike. Phillies tonight, which kind of goes against the grain, have had no hits in 12 at-bats as a team with runners in scoring position. I guess if you're going to have one of those kind of games, this is the kind of game to do it. They didn't waste any clutch hits tonight.
No, they didn't. John, I want to send a quick shout out to Bill Walsh, ex-49er football coach. He's in the Stanford Medical Hospital in Palo Alto, California, recuperating. And just wanted to say hello to him. He's a big fan of our games.
And we send our prayers and best wishes to Bill Walsh. 10,000 losses. Phillies are 1 strike away from being the first to reach that rather dubious distinction. But the fans, I guess, who are still here, they're nothing else to cheer for.
Actually, I think it caused Utley to have to step out. He didn't know what all the cheering was for.
Yeah, that would be the reaction you would expect for another loss. Deep into center. Way back there. Off the base of the wall, and it gets stuck out there. Scoring is Coast on a double by Utley. It's 10-2 Cardinals.
Well, who was that famous poet that said it's never over till it's over? I mean, it has happened before.
36th double of the year for Utley. He got 74 RBIs now. He was leading the league in RBIs when the day began. We're tied with Carlos Lee of Houston for the league lead. So here is Ryan Howard. He hit a double his last time. A little bonus here. The Phillies fans get to see Utley and Howard again. Popped up. Foul and out of play. Everybody's standing. There's one Major League team that has won 10,000 games, the San Francisco Giants. Started out as the New York Giants, and they were born the same year as the Phillies. 0-1 the count to Howard. In the dirt with a changeup from Cavazos. And the Phillies, I guess it stands to reason, is the team with the most losses. The one team that they've lost to more often than any other, the Giants. Yeah. Okay. 1,220 times. And that's more losses than any team has had against any other team.
Well, we're close to going off the air, maybe. But I would wonder if the fans knew who was second to the Phillies in those 10,000 losses. I'm going to give them a couple of seconds. I think they may be surprised.
This is another Excedrin trivia question.
Yeah. All right. No, this is Joe's trivia question.
Okay. 3-1 to Howard. All right. So immediately you think of a team has to have been around a long time.
Right. Correct. And we'll give them a hint. They started in Boston, so that gives them the big hint.
Are they still in Boston?
No. They started there.
The Braves.
That's it. You got it.
Back to the screen.
Yes, the Braves have 9,681 losses. So they have a ways to go, but eventually they'll reach the top 10,000. And there you see the Cubs after the Braves.
The Cubs are 575 games ahead of the Phillies in the all-time standings. 3-2 to Howard. Utley at second. He struck him out with a changeup, and the ball game is over. Phillies are hitting the road. The Cardinals road trip continues. They got a big win, one they badly needed. We'll see you next Sunday. The ESPYs are up next. Now for Joe Morgan and Peter Gammons, this is John Miller. Thanks for tuning in, and good night from Philadelphia.